Good evening, everybody. This is Marcia Weeks, and you are watching the Marcia Weeks Show. We're coming to you live from where? Barbados. Live from Barbados, right here in the Caribbean. And so I'm going to ask you, as usual, to share. Let everybody know that we are on. We are on. And while you are sharing, there's a video that I want to share with you right away. Okay. And this is important. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And hope you had a beautiful day today. Today is the 3rd of January. All right. Today is the 3rd of January. And we are, moving on in the month of January. How is it going for you? Well, I tell you, it's not going very too well for the government. There's been a lot of exposure, a lot of things that I don't think that they had planned for. Or is it that they are exposing themselves? Is it because of infighting? We don't know. But let's just listen to this video and we're going to have a little discussion on it.
We've had a situation where this administration came to public life, telling the people of this country that they were going to introduce integrity legislation. Y'all remember that? That they were going to hold themselves accountable to the people of this country. That they were going to stamp out corruption in high places.
I want you to hold on to this statement. It's going to be really important throughout this video. Remember what she's saying, personal accountability and the stomping out of corruption from the highest levels of government.
Time comes because the Barbados Labour Party has come out front and we have brought a draft integrity legislation bill. We are not waiting till we get to Parliament to hold our members to account or to let you then have to talk with us to talk about whether we are putting corruption legislation in place. We have taken it on ourselves to ensure that we are going to be held accountable to the people of this country.
This was at the time, member of the House of Assembly, SANTIA Bradshaw on March 5, 2018 at Montgomery Pasture St. Michael, one of her campaign rallies. Without a hint of irony, in all of her righteous indignation, she stands before you today as the Deputy Prime Minister who vaingloriously declared the Barbados Labour Party is taking the charge against corruption with the Integrity in Public Life Act. I'm here to tell you, to this day, 5 years on from this very campaign rally, it is not proclaimed. It still cannot be used to hold those in positions of power accountable despite the fact that it has passed both the House and Senate. So we're asking as concerned members of the public, Deputy Prime Minister, what's the hold up? In a 30-0 majority within Parliament, what excuse does she have? What can she affirm to you as the reason for this, other than personal interest?
And that is the situation that we find ourselves in this country today, where people are asking legitimate questions about whether there is one rule for people in high places and people in low places. And that madness has to stop in this country. And the Barbados Labour Party has given you the assurance that we will be governed as members of an administration to stamp out corruption in high places. And if a couple people got to get locked up for doing things that they did before, then they got to get locked up.
So why aren't you getting punished or locked up, Deputy Prime Minister? Where's the check? I told you that personal accountability would be important. As reported by the press and confirmed through the judicial system, the Deputy Prime Minister was found in possession of a check addressed to her personally on behalf of Errol Clark Associates valued at $7,500 Barbados dollars. Should you not know who that is? Errol Clark Associates is a consultant engineering firm, the one in charge of the repairs in Whitehall. In fact, I'll provide a photo of the same Errol Clark sitting next to technical officers dispatched to discuss with residents of the area. The Deputy Prime Minister is also the Minister of Transport, Works, and Water Resources. In other words, it's the agency in charge of seeing those repairs done. The Deputy Prime Minister also claims this is something she had consistently done even before she had been a member of Parliament as a means to provide for her constituency during Christmas. Now this is where it gets ironic. By virtue of the legislation passed by the Barbados Labour Party, the fact that she did not disclose this information, nor did she deliver this gift, or as she says, donation, to the Minister of Finance is in violation of the legislation she spearheaded. Furtherly, she claimed it was not a personal check. If it was not, by the legislation she had spearheaded, she would have to deliver it to the Minister of Finance, something she had not done, and something she had not expressed the intent to do. But she could have never reported it to a commission for them to determine if it was personal or not, because the legislation is not proclaimed, therefore it did not exist. In other words, she could not be held accountable, nor could she face consequences for breaking to the public's trust because of a technicality. But here she had been, telling us tales, haikus to personal accountability, integrity, ethics, and justice regardless of standing, without any intention of following those same standards. Will the people of Barbados now take a stand against corruption and favoritism?
Listen, we need to send a very, very strong message to our Deputy Prime Minister of Barbados. And we need to let her know we're taking your advice. In this clip, you said that this madness has to stop. The madness where there is one set of rules for one set of people, one set of laws, and then there's another set of laws for another set of people. You said that this madness has to stop. You said that it's within reason that Barbadians should ask questions. That's what you said. And we are saying to our Deputy Prime Minister, this madness has to stop. Who is saying this? The people of Barbados, the true opposition of Barbados, the people of Barbados. We are taking a stand against corruption. If it looks like it, it smells like it, we want to walk far from that. That's what we are saying. The people of Barbados, we are taking a stand against corruption. And, Deputy Prime Minister, we are doing the same thing that you did years before. This bill was passed in the upper and lower chambers, both in the Parliament and in the Senate. And the question, Deputy Prime Minister, this is so much of your baby. This is your baby. This legislation is your baby. The question we want to know from you, can you tell the people of Barbados why this bill has not been proclaimed? Why would something that you promised way before, 7 years ago, you promised this to us, the people of Barbados. And it was passed, you said, in the Senate and passed in Parliament, passed in Senate. However, it's not proclaimed, but the bill that has to deal with the ID is already proclaimed and ready to go, isn't it? What are the other bills that are proclaimed and ready to go? And we are to sit down and not say anything about that. In your own words, you are saying to us that it's okay. And this is what I want to say to everybody who's part of this opposition. The opposition that I'm talking about is not a party, because we really don't have a political opposition. We don't. What we have is Barbadians, educated Barbadians who are asking questions. And you know what? This video tells us, people of Barbados, that there's nothing wrong in asking questions. That what the opposition is doing is quite right. It's quite right. I mean, we are not even going that far to ask for people to be locked up. But this lady was asking for people to be locked up. Did you hear it? Did you hear the righteous indignation? Or is it that this particular Deputy Prime Minister believes that she is of a certain pedigree, and therefore she's off limits? Could it be that? I don't know, because it is clear. It is clear. It is clear as day. if this legislation was proclaimed, this deputy prime minister, based on that, whether it was that she had not had the intent, because I don't know what her intentions are. I don't know. But I'm just saying, based on this piece of legislation, it is clear that this deputy prime minister would either have to pay some fines or, as she says, get locked up. But it's not proclaimed. And these are the questions, opposition, that you need to ask your elected officials. You need to ask your prime minister. You need to speak about it. This is another one of them where they're walking all over us. They're able to proclaim the bills that they want to proclaim. Huh? The madness has to stop. The madness has to stop. This is what she says. And this madness in Barbados has to stop, because it can only be madness if we end up, opposition, people of Barbados, loyal citizens of Barbados, if we allow people to do the same thing to us in the same way, nothing is changed. It is madness. And it's either them mad or we mad. You understand? It's either they are mad or we are mad. They need to tell us, why wasn't it proclaimed? And this is why I say to everybody, get out there on the streets on January 13th about this law that they proclaimed. And Mr. Caswell, our general, told us that they did it in the dead of night. It's another one they did in the dead of night. Huh? And that one is already proclaimed to take our liberty away from us, to take our identity away from us, to tell us who is a Bajan and who is not a Bajan if we don't have their ID. They went ahead and did that. And if this doesn't cause righteous indignation in Barbadians, I don't know what else would. Am I saying that the intent was to defraud? I am not saying that, because I don't know that. And I sincerely am saying I don't know that. What I'm saying, though, is that these people who are in power, somehow they think we're idiots. A legislation that would bring them, what's the word you would say, where they would be answerable to the law. It wasn't for us, it was for them. And it's not proclaimed. So what? It has no teeth? Huh? Hypocrisy. I'm seeing our general is waiting to come on. I want to play it again for them. And I want to thank whoever did that video. And this is how we fight, opposition. Those of you who are listening, I want you to understand something. That you're part of a formidable team, a force. And these kinds of videos is what, these are the things that we want to be research. Don't wait on Caswell alone to research. Don't wait on Kimar alone to research. Don't wait on me. Don't wait on other people. Every single one of you, get going. This video, you need to make it viral. I don't know who put it out, and I don't care. You know what? Because I keep telling you all, the opposition is way bigger than the Marcia Week show. Oh, yes. The opposition is way bigger than the Marcia Week show. It is the people of Barbados, those in the diaspora and those who are living in Barbados. Let me see if the general is ready to come in. He's ready. Listen, let me bring in the general here. Let me bring in the general, because I hate hypocrisy. General, good evening, sir.
Good evening, Marcy, and good evening to all who has tuned in so far. You know,
Yes, yes. I didn't. I
I
didn't
was
get.
having a little issue there trying to get up and running, but I remember my teaching. You know, Roger came and he showed me what to do, so I'm good.
Well, let as you step in, let me just welcome those. I went straight for it because I said to myself, whoever it is that did this video, they have done a service to Barbados. Joy and Faith, Kamar, Natasha Hope, Sir Alfred, good evening from New York City. Sean Cool, Mr. Maximus, good to see you. Kamar, Joanne Faith, Peace, Natasha Hope, Kamar, yes, Premium Vibes. Kathy Stout, Square Four, Sabio Chapman, Kelby Gelbis, Steve Moore, Jack Murphy. Yes, I'm hearing a noise coming through there. Llewellyn Eiffel, Nigel Newton, hi Nigel, Steve Morrigan, Beverly Prescott, Pamela Edwards, Aaron Hunt, Denise Moore, Oswald Newton, Clive Osborne, 8787, Judith and Clark, Tracy Barrow, Marlene Seeley, Springtime, Aaron Hunt, Mystic Angel, Pete Webb. Listen, I'm calling out all the names because I want you to get a message loud and clear. Opposition. This is madness. We're joining the Deputy Prime Minister at the time she wasn't. And we're saying this is madness. And we ain't the mad ones. We're not the mad ones. Listen, this is time for them to go. It's time for them to go. January 13th, let this be. When we come out on the Saturday, January 13th, the letter's gone on to the police. Let this be about not just that law, but all of these other laws. You see all the laws that they pass on us, Mr. Franklin, in the middle of the pandemic, all the things these wicked people do to us in the middle of this pandemic, huh? And the ones that will hold them accountable, Mr. Franklin, it's not gonna tell us about it not that it wasn't proclaimed. Well, we are proclaiming it today. We understand that. Guess what? You are protecting yourselves. You are protecting yourself. We understand what that is. Mr. Franklin, let me just, I see Kimar here as well. I'm going to play the video again and get your comments on it, okay? But guys, while I'm looking for the video to play the video, I need you to share. Please share. We gotta get serious now. If we were never serious, we need to get serious. Get some strength from SANTIA BRADSHAW tonight. Get some strength from her. All right? Hear what she says. Yeah, she believes we should stamp out the corruption. Let's listen to her now.
We have had a situation where this administration came to public life, telling the people of this country that they were going to introduce integrity legislation. Y'all remember that? That they were going to hold themselves accountable to the people of this country. That they were going to stamp out corruption in high places.
I want you to hold on to this statement. It's going to be really important throughout this video. Remember what she's saying, personal accountability and the stomping out of corruption from the highest levels of government.
Time comes because the Barbados Labour Party has come out front and we have brought a draft integrity legislation bill. We are not waiting till we get to Parliament to hold our members to account or to let you then have to talk with us to talk about whether we are putting corruption legislation in place. We have taken it on ourselves to ensure that we are going to be held accountable to the people of this country.
This was at the time, member of the House of Assembly, Santia Bradshaw on March 5, 2018 at Montgomery Pasture St. Michael, one of her campaign rallies. Without a hint of irony, in all of her righteous indignation, she stands before you today as the Deputy Prime Minister who vaingloriously declared the Barbados Labour Party is taking the charge against corruption with the Integrity in Public Life Act. I'm here to tell you, to this day, 5 years on from this very campaign rally, it is not proclaimed. It still cannot be used to hold those in positions of power accountable despite the fact that it has passed both the House and Senate. So we're asking as concerned members of the public, Deputy Prime Minister, what's the hold up? In a 30-0 majority within Parliament, What excuse does she have? What can she affirm to you is the reason for this, other than personal interest?
And that is the situation that we find ourselves in this country today, where people are asking legitimate questions about whether there is one rule for people in high places and people in low places. And that madness has to stop in this country. And the Barbados Labour Party has given you the assurance that we will be governed as members of an administration to stamp out corruption in high places. And if a couple people got to get locked up for doing things that they did before, then they got to get locked up.
So why aren't you getting punished or locked up, Deputy Prime Minister? Where's the check? I told you that personal accountability would be important. As reported by the press and confirmed through the judicial system, the Deputy Prime Minister was found in possession of a check addressed to her personally on behalf of Errol Clark Associates valued at $7,500 Barbados dollars. Should you not know who that is? Errol Clark Associates is a consultant engineering firm, the one in charge of the repairs in Whitehall. In fact, I'll provide a photo of the same Errol Clark sitting next to technical officers dispatched to discuss with residents of the area. The Deputy Prime Minister is also the Minister of Transport, Works, and Water Resources. In other words, it's the agency in charge of seeing those repairs done. The Deputy Prime Minister also claims this is something she had consistently done even before she had been a member of Parliament as a means to provide for her constituency during Christmas. Now this is where it gets ironic. By virtue of the legislation passed by the Barbados Labour Party, the fact that she did not disclose this information, nor did she deliver this gift, or as she says, donation, to the Minister of Finance is in violation of the legislation she spearheaded. Furtherly, she claimed it was not a personal check. If it was not, by the legislation she had spearheaded, she would have to deliver it to the Minister of Finance, something she had not done, and something she had not expressed the intent to do. But she could have never reported it to a commission for them to determine if it was personal or not, because the legislation is not proclaimed, therefore it did not exist. In other words, she could not be held accountable, nor could she face consequences for breaking the public's trust because of a technicality. But here she had been, telling us tales, haikus to personal accountability, integrity, ethics, and justice regardless of standing, without any intention of following those same standards. Will the people of Barbados now take a stand against corruption and favoritism?
Mr. Franklin, will the people of Barbados now take a stand against corruption and favoritism? What are your thoughts, sir, watching this video? Good evening again. You're muted. Go ahead. I unmuted you.
Okay. My thoughts were the same thoughts I had today when I was making it viral.
So you were making it, you were sending it out.
I was sending it to whoever I could get my hands on, because this shows the hypocrisy. You say you jump up on the platform and she was quite animated, jumping up and telling people what they were going to do. I remember they saying, they were going to have an integrity and public life bill within the first 100 days and all kind of stuff. It took 5 years before they finally get it there. And when they get it there, they did not proclaim it. I'm believing that because you didn't implement the integrity and public life bill, that you can do what you like. No, there is still such a thing as common law offenses like misfeasance in public office and misconduct in public office. You can still be charged with them. They're common law offenses, just like, for instance, there's no law that says you can't commit murder written in a statute book, but you can be punished for it because it's a common law offense. So just like murder, you can charge people with misconduct in public office, misfeasance in public office, and I think that what we have seen so far gives any prosecutor enough grounds to build a case against her. She has no right accepting money, and don't tell me that it was for any hamper gift and all kind of stuff. That is rubbish, because you insulate yourself from that type of behavior. The problem here is arrogance. You know, we have 30 seats, so we can do what we like. And there's nobody to hold us accountable.
You're getting lower. You're getting lower. I don't know if it's my computer or what.
And let me put this a little closer.
Yes, okay, that's for me.
It's arrogance. It's supreme arrogance. You can do what you like because I have 30 seats in Parliament, and they're only the independent senators, and Lord knows some of them are not too interested in holding the government to account. I'll put it no higher than that, because I know one of them who gets work from the government. You know, so I keep telling people you cannot be independent of the government and getting substantial sums from the government for doing work for them. That does not speak to independence. But there you go, you have them. So she needs to step down. There was another video that I was sending around to, the one from Zambia. You saw that one, Marcia?
No, I didn't see that one as yet. If I get it, then I will send it to Dave.
The Minister of Foreign Affairs in Zambia, he actually was doing some underhand business with the Chinese. And the very next day, when it was discovered, I think the Chinese leaked the video of him collecting the money. And the president called him in, and later on that same day he resigned. So, and I was sending that, plus the one with SANTIA getting so animated on the platform to show people the contrast. In Zambia, this fellow got caught, same day he gone. Here in Barbados, we trying to find excuses. There is no excuse for this type of behavior, especially when you have such a stance on corruption and bribes. They're accusing them of all manner of dishonesty, and they say anything can happen under our watch. We can police ourselves. And the Prime Minister, before any legislation was passed, she will require her MPs to deposit their statement of financial, whatever they call it, with the Cabinet Secretary. You remember, there was no law for it, but she said, they're trying to get
the point was that and she repeated it here, not in those exact words, but that they were going to voluntarily police themselves.
Yes.
So here is the Prime Minister right now, and what does she have to say about this? Because if the thing is that, Mr. Franklin, we don't know if there was any impropriety. We don't know if the intent was bad. The point, though, is that all the action has broken. All the actions that they broke the law, right? The laws were broken.
So, we don't even have to know. We don't have to know. There is a presumption that when you receive money in this manner, it is corruption. You have to prove that it is not corruption. And letting the news media, Voice of Barbados, and the nation do a little PR piece for you does not absolve you. You still have to show us, because I am not satisfied with the explanation given, because from my own personal knowledge, I can tell you that at the 19th of January, 19th of January was December, the 19th of December when that check was stolen, it should have been converted to cash to pay for the hampers ever since. So I do not believe that story. You don't give people the hampers Christmas morning. You buy these things way in advance, store them, and then you pack them and distribute them. You can't wait till the last minute. So I don't believe that story. That is a convenient story. I do not believe it. Come with another one that is more plausible.
Yeah.
I am very sorry, but you cannot be up there singing the tune that she was saying during the campaign, accusing everybody of misconduct, corruption, and everything else, and then come and bring yourself into a situation where you can be described as corrupt.
And
She might.
Caswell, I want to say this, that this is where a lot of these groups, and I'm going to start with the political parties. Barbadians, look. I want you to open your eyes and see what's happening. When they were not in power, look at what they were promising you. Look at how animated she was. Look at how convincing she was when she was not in power. Is that what we've come to, where these political parties is that they have us as a football and everybody kick us there and kick us there. She was complaining about what she saw was corruption in that party, in the other party, right? And now that they're in power, look at what's going on. Are we we're political footballs? They kick us where they want to go. And I have to commend the DLP for speaking up on this particular issue, because when they don't, Mr. Franklin, I say something about it. So I want to say I commend the DLP in speaking about this issue, and so it makes me wonder why they can't speak about others. But anyway, what about the third parties? Does it cost money to open your mouth? Where are the third parties that who's speaking up on behalf of the people of Barbados?
That is why third parties are not taken seriously in Barbados. They research around election campaigns and want to run into office. No, you got to go there and do the work. You got to go there, let people see that you're serious about what you're talking about. Don't just wait for election day and hope that you will win. That is why most of them lose their deposit, because nobody takes them seriously. You should not just wait for the convenient time to get in, so hoping that you can get in, so you can then get your front feet in the trough. You have to be out there working, letting people see that you are serious. Go out there in the constituencies and work with the young people, help to get them to, because right now we have the young people in Barbados that need a lot of guidance. Those people who want to aspire to political office should be out there trying to help the young people in Barbados, not waiting for election time, hoping that the country will get vexed with the two parties and put you in. They should be out there speaking.
Nonsense. It's nonsense. And on this, I say thank God for the DLP speaking up on behalf of the people of Barbados. But I want to say to the people of Barbados, do not wait on these political parties to speak on your behalf. Do not wait. This video was created, I don't know by who, and we don't care. It is fact because it's her saying it. Send it all over. Like the show. There's about only 4 of you liking the show. Over 435 people on. How many persons like the show? Like the show. The like button is a thumbs up. It's important. Why are you doing that? It's going to get more people to see it. The algorithm is going to trigger that, and more people will see the show. Then go over to the right-hand side. You see a bell. Click the bell. And that bell is a notification bell. And it will also give you the instruction of, how to become part of us. All right? By subscribing. Okay, all right. I'm hearing something coming through.
Marcia, send me the link so I can share, because I don't have that.
Okay, so I'm sending that to you now. But it is time. It is time. What I am saying to us, this is time for us to get rid of this government. You hear? I tell you, it is. Look at how the year has started. Look at how the Almighty God is trying to help us. The God above is trying to help us to open up our eyes. So those of you who still sleeping, yeah. Those of you who still sleeping, God is opening up our eyes so we can see. And again, I'm gonna just repeat. I'm trying to get this thing sent to Mr. Franklin. I want to repeat that. I don't know if there was any intent to defraud. It is as Mr. Franklin says, they need to go to the law. They need to prove that. But the point is that if this legislation was proclaimed, this woman today would have to stand before a court of law. And it's not proclaimed. This is according to them.
And they said they would have done it within 100 days of forming the government. You know how many 100 days passed since they came into office? When I was in the Senate, I said on the floor of the Senate, this legislation will not pass and it will not get implemented until these people get rich.
Yeah.
And people tell me I attributing improper motives to people. I said, no, I'm not improper motives. There was only one administration that ever passed integrity and public life legislation in Barbados. That was the Friendly Stewart administration. All the others from Tom Adams down, that I can recall because I pick up from Tom Adams' time. He was talking about corruption, the Dems corruption. As a matter of fact, he had bring out the Dems with some checks. I remember them well from Sidney Bernard Alling and stuff. He got up in the house and he shook them over the place, and he showed that Sidney Bernard Alling was helping to give the Democrat Labour Party money and checks and all kind of stuff. Sidney Bernard Allen was a Belgian drug gun runner who was selling arms to both sides in the conflict in Zimbabwe. So those checks from him helped bring on the Barrow administration.
Mm-hmm.
So Barbados politicians got a history with checks. So then every other administration accused the previous one of corruption and stuff. The only one that actually put it on the books but did not proclaim it was Friendly Stewart. Till now. Now these have, and then they say, oh, the one with that Friendly pass wasn't good enough, so they're not going to proclaim it. They're going to do their own. And they take 5 years to do it. And they take 5 years to do it and have not put in place any regulations or stuff. The act cannot work without regulations. And those regulations should have been brought so that the parliament themselves could see what the regulations would be. No, this is just a joke. This is just to give people the impression that they're doing something. They have not done anything yet. Get them and talking big and pretty don't mean anything. You have to actually do, not talk. People say, I don't want you to talk the talk. I want you to walk the walk. They're going to do some walking. They're going to actually get out there and do the right thing. The Prime Minister, by now, she's very she should be out there saying to the SANTIA, look, SANTIA, this thing look bad. You get caught. I understand what's happening, but we need to show that we have integrity in our government. So we can't hold on for you. Maybe we get a little time off and then you come back afterward in some other position and stuff. So be it. But you cannot remain. That is what should happen. Because I'm not asking for a death sentence. I'm saying that when you get hooked, you should do the decent thing. You should do the right thing. And right now, it looks to everybody in Barbados, except those who don't want to see that something is wrong here.
Correct. And in her own words, she's saying that this madness has to stop. And I'm saying to the Barbadian people, to my people, to all of us, do we agree with her? Do we agree with her that this madness has to stop? And you know what the madness she's speaking of? Where some people are held accountable and some are not. You understand? She is saying that, and she says that they're taking it upon themselves to police themselves. So why aren't you policing yourself now? I say get rid of them. Bajans, when the 13th of January comes, flood the streets. Because if you can go ahead and proclaim laws behind our backs, right? They promised us, I see Mr. Stewart is on, they promised us, Mr. Franklin, they went ahead and promised us, I remember they said, oh, they're looking into extending the age of the parliamentarians as well from 50. Did they do that yet?
No, not at all.
Not
That's another thing.
They take us to idiots. Kimar. They take us to idiots. They told us 100 days, right? By the time they get in, that this legislation was going to be passed. It's 5 years, and the thing no have no teeth because no proclaim. Huh? and they tell us anything that is going to affect them. They say we are in this thing together. Let me just get this off my chest before Kimar come in. They say we're in this thing together, Mr. Franklin. Huh? 150 years. They are retiring. They get their pension at 50. And my husband is sat in here with counting, say he go have to wait till 68. 3 more years on his. You think that that is right? And you tell us 100 days. It's now over 5 years. And we are to sit down here as Barbadians and take that. Come on, guys. Come on, guys. The third thing, get out there, because they went ahead and they passed legislation without anything from us. We had no say in it. About these IDs and all the other. Mr. Franklin can tell us about all the other things. Kumar, good night. I'm hot tonight. I'm hot. I hate hypocrisy. Go ahead, my brother. Good night. How are you?
Hi, good night, everyone. My favorite people in the world. Hey, always glad to be here. Um, happy to see you guys. All the best for 2024. Be the loyal opposition. We made it. Against the odds, cause if they had their way, we all be dead in Barbados. But nevertheless, we fought, and now we're here. And I was sort of thinking that maybe they would give us a break from having to chastise them all the time, but apparently that's not happening. I mean, from day one, they were doing wrong, and I saw the video earlier playing, and I heard some of the comments, but I just don't want us to get lost in the debate, right, about what is the correct legislation to prosecute the SANTIA BRADSHAW on. So I saw people were speaking about the integrity legislation, right? And it not being proclaimed. But as Casual said on the show, we already have legislation in place to deal with that, right? Mm-hmm. And it is a confessed bribe. She confessed to bribery. She confessed that she received bribes, right? The person paying bribes as well, he confessed to paying those bribes. So you have a clear case of corruption on your hands, right? And
well, you're saying it's bribe because of how it's done. So that's what you're saying. But we don't know if that was her intent. But go ahead, please.
But it's bribery, right? The company receives contracts from the government. She's the minister in charge of giving out the contracts, right? So you cannot receive gifts. You cannot be receiving monies to your personal account. As you're not your minister, as long as you're a minister, you're supposed to give up your employment. She's not supposed to be an attorney, right? You are no longer, or your name is no longer yours. Your name now belongs to the state. So if it is that he was paying the money to a charity, the name of the charity should have been on the check, right? If he was paying money to the constituency, the St. Michael Southeast branch should have been on the check, not her name, So it is a clear case of bribery. We are not saying that the guy paid bribes to receive a contract, but it is indeed bribery as long as you receive that money in your capacity, even no matter what you intend it for. It could have been.
So you're saying, because let's be clear about that. We're not saying that. You're saying that the laws were broken then. The laws were broken.
Yes, and there's a clear-cut case of financial corruption, and our anti-corruption legislation should have been, well, it is already in place. It should have been invoked. And as Casual said, the Prime Minister should have stepped forward and said, well, you know what, I love you and everything, but you broke the law, and I got to remove you from the position. But that's not the case here. But I don't want people to say that she's getting off on a technicality. She's not getting off. The fact that the integrity legislation is not proclaimed is fine. But we had anti-corruption legislation in place before. right? So that legislation should be used to measure this act, and it is clear you cannot be receiving any money from no company that you give contracts to. The Don Villains did the same thing, and the courts of America ruled what they had to rule on it. I mean, that's repeating what Donville said. He said, but we all do it. All of us do it. All of us take money, right? But that is the reason why Barbados continues to be blacklisted and blackballed in the world, because all of these type of corrupt acts can happen, and nothing happens, right? And that is why the European Union and the OECD and the Financial Action Task Force and all of these anti-corruption bodies around the world are clamping down on Caribbean politicians, because the system in itself is just corrupt,
Mhm.
right? So nothing personal against the individual, but if you follow the legislation in place, due processes for the minister to be removed from the position, and we are clearly not seeing that. So again, it is up to the people and the opposition and the people of Barbados to push for the leader of government, which is the prime minister, to follow the law, follow the due process, and take the necessary action.
Yes, Mr. Stewart. And on that note, I want to say to people, come out on Saturday, January 13th at 10 a.m. This is not time to sit at home to wonder how many persons are going to be out there, because this is one of the laws that was passed, and they did it when they knew people who could have opposed it were not present, because they wanted to make sure that this was passed. But the laws that would keep them accountable, as Anantima is saying, there are others on the books, but the ones that they promised to pass, they did not. They did not complete the process. Someone is saying, "Oh, well, it's the president that proclaims, um, does the proclamation." But come on, the president can't do anything unless they have everything ready for her to proclaim it.
You see that nonsense book, the president shall his body proclaim. Yes, that is true. But the president only proclaims what is sent before her. The proclamation is just the president signing and saying that the act will commence from this day. That's all a proclamation is, and the proclamation is prepared by the cabinet office and sent to the president, and the president just signs. The president does not even have a say as if it can be proclaimed or not. It's just a signature. It's a formality. Tell that person, yeah, find another excuse. No blame the poor president. The president got some powers, but not enough to stop a piece of legislation that's been passed through both houses of parliament. And then the president can say, it don't work like that. All and if the president, it is set before the president, and the president does not sign it within a particular time, the government can just go ahead and let it go on without the president says so.
Yeah.
So the president is just really a formality in terms of legislation, because it will still get on the books if the president don't sign. So
Caswell,
it
you
don't
know
make no
what?
sense.
You know what this reminds me of, Caswell? This reminds me of when the prime minister tried to force Khalil Kofliwala into the Senate,
Yeah.
and they bundled it, and then they sought to blame the independent senators for their mistakes, and said that the independent senators were the ones who did not support the legislation, and the independent senators this and the independent senators that, and it was them, But
Mm-hmm. you know. But I want us, because I know we're not going to talk about this the entire night. I think that Barbadians now need to act. We've been talking too much, Kimard. We need to act. You understand? And one of the things that I want to, I see Caswell dropped off there, but I want to touch this a bit before we go into talking about this economy that they have messed up the economy. Yeah. But let me just say something here again, because this is another thing here that bothers me. Kima, I'm a lover of young people, and this young lady is 21 years old. And this is what I am saying. This is my positioning on it. If anybody in Barbados ever believe that this is all her doing. Although we can't tell whether it's a girl and boy, and I'm not trying to make a joke on this, because I literally was I was shocked, because I was saying I thought that the report had said it was a girl, but then I couldn't tell if it was a girl or a boy. But nevertheless, this
Uh,
young woman,
we're getting an
her
echo
name
from
is,
you, Marcia.
repeat.
We're getting an echo from you coming through.
Yes. Okay. I
Maybe
think it
you
seemed like
need
I
to
know
mute.
where it's coming from. Give me a moment. Give me a moment.
Yeah. All right. In the meantime, how's everybody doing? Very happy to see my people. Square 4. I saw you in there. Uh, who else you saw tonight? Pete Ray, Sandra Franklin. That's Gel Biz that I'm seeing. Good night to Joseph, Tony Paris, Jennifer, Sue. Who else? Who else we're seeing here? Let's good night to everyone. Pastor Ferdinand, good night to him. Uh, yeah, good night to everybody. Happy 2024. I was just giving Marcy a chance to get herself. I'm pretty sure she's back now. Back over to the queen. You're muted. No, I can't hear.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
So I'm better. Is this better? Can you hear you? I'm still echoing.
No, it's perfect.
It's perfect. No, thank you so much. Thank you. Now, what I'm saying, I see Mr. Franklin is having trouble getting back in, but let me just say something here, okay? Kimar, I want to say something that I'm very aware that young people can plan things and so on. But I want to say to my Barbadian, this is my opinion. This is in the news, and this is my opinion on it. I don't have any facts. And I want to say upfront that this young lady is innocent until proven guilty. Her name is Tonine. Is her name? Is it the name Tonine? How do you pronounce it? Uh,
Seems to be Tanil or Tonil.
Tonil, right? Tonil Rowe. I want to say that Tonil Rowe is innocent until proven guilty. Okay? So I'm not here saying that she's guilty of anything. I'm saying, though, that I want Barbadians to stop and think about this. Do you think, what are your views? Do you think that she is acting alone? Because the reason I ask, is that I really believe that this young lady is taking the fall for a lot of people. If she did it, was she right in doing it? If she did it, no, she wasn't. I'm just saying that I believe that this young lady, right? This young lady is taking the fall. And it's not just because I want you to think about what constituency she's coming from. Go back to the Easter situation. Where did those people come from? When the where the PM was able to say, basically stop the police in their work. Who is really behind all of this? What is happening? Yes, she's taking the fall. She probably taking the fall. Probably it's a political fall too. We don't know, but she's taking some fall. Who are the people that's behind it? I know we see her, and I don't know if she will ever listen to this show. Tonil Rowe, I want to say to you this. Say what you know. Open your mouth and speak. If you go down, little girl, bring down the rest of them with you. Be like Samson. You see, when Samson was going down to Nero, Samson bring everybody, including himself, down. Make up your mind. Be strong and make up your mind and tell yourself, if I am going down, bring down the whole of them. If you are not the only one involved and there are people above you involved, open your mouth, Tennille. We're going to talk about the diplomatic passports a little later because Miss McLean, Mr. Franklin, is going to come on, and both of you were senators, and you would know a lot about that. So we're going to deal with that a little later. But I just want to take this moment, right, to say to this young lady, Tennille Wall.
I think though that we got to cut back here because this matter now is sub judice, and to the extent that we are not talking about the evidence or anything like that, but I don't want us to stray over there. We could talk about what we've seen. We've seen the person has been arrested. We know who her father is. We know the family connections are and stuff. But getting in much further than that, they can put us in a little bit of trouble. So I rather leave this alone until such time as the courts have dealt with it and found her innocent or guilty. But no courts find you innocent; they find you not guilty or guilty. I was told once by a former teacher of mine who became a lawyer after. He said there are three things: you are innocent, you're guilty, or you're not guilty. He says, but in Barbados we don't plead innocent; we plead guilty or not guilty. Guilty means that you did it. Innocent and not guilty means that you're either innocent or you're guilty, but they can't prove it. So we have to wait until the courts determine guilt or innocent or guilt or not guilty before we can go any further into this thing, because I don't want to be taken down from next thing there will. Yes, we can talk about the diplomatic passport because I still have issues with that. And since Maxie's going to come on, because I want to talk about that since yesterday. I mean, since Monday, because I was an immigration officer too, and I know a little bit about passports, and enough to guide me to know that it's strange that she had one, but as you said, we're going to get down to that later on.
We will
So,
talk.
but I think we can talk about the broad parameters of this case without getting into any particulars. Okay. Because if we get into any particulars, they can say that we are discussing matters that are sub judice, and I don't want to go down that road because they want to take us off ever since. Because just now I thought when I was having some issues that they were taking me out, because I had to turn on and reboot and try about 4 times before I get back on.
Yes. Well, guys, we want to, because these are not the only issues that we have dealing with. And Kimar, we were talking today, and we were saying that we have to get the people ready for the year. What's coming up, and I know that there are some economic things that we have to deal with, right? And relating to the possible budget, not possible, we will have a budget. Well, we should. We should. And so I'm going to turn over to Kimar now.
Right before we get at that though, I like counsel. I don't want to necessarily discuss a court matter, but I think we should discuss before we get into the economic issues. I could say clearly, I had my personal issues with the courts. I could say clearly on the show, I was charged for marijuana to sale, or I had possession of marijuana. They said that was never true. I never got held with any marijuana. I was never in possession of any marijuana at any point in time or anything like that, right? So this place is corrupt. And I could say when it comes to certain issues, right? And the particular police officer that wrongfully charged me because I had to stand up to him not to abuse his power, right? Not to abuse his power by coming into people's neighborhoods and just pushing guns in people's face and trying to beat people's children, right? I had to stand up against him. I know he was charged wrongfully. My name was put all over the world saying that I had marijuana, right? I was removed from my position as General Secretary, Democratic Party, wrongfully, right? And the particular lawyer who encouraged the story to be printed in the newspaper, he knows who he is, right? So these are things that young people in Barbados struggle with and being framed and being set up. I'm going to speak it now, right? Because I personally went through it. You can come to the location, Kensington Lodge, St. Michael, and ask any of the people in this neighborhood if what they printed in the newspaper about me was true, and all of them would tell you no, it was a lie. He was never held with any marijuana. You could come and ask them right now, but my face was printed in the newspaper, and they said I had it, and I lost a lot of opportunities, and I got a lot of setbacks, and over false accusations, right? But it leads me to a bigger thing. The government came to office promising young people in this country, right, that they were going to liberalize the use of marijuana, right? They promised that you could have use for they would decriminalize it, and you could have use for recreation, and they said you should not be locking up people for a spliff and locking up people for a joint, which is true. You should never be, right? But they passed legislation in this country and gave the Canadians massive chunks of land in St. John and other places to grow marijuana in Barbados, medicinal marijuana, they say. The idea for them was to have the Canadians planting marijuana here and export it back to Canada, This was the same thing that they did with the sugar cane, and that they would export it from Barbados, and then Barbados now in turn has to buy it back from Canada to be sold in local pharmacies in this country, right? The Rastafari community protested against the proposed legislative changes because the license fees for these marijuana licenses are over $100,000 going up in the air, right? So they kept out the small amount. So they were locking up people for all of these years for marijuana possession and all of that, right? They locked out the people who had, they never removed any of the charges for people who was charged for small possession, right? The people who were in prison for importing and cultivating marijuana, they never pardoned them and allowed them to be involved in it. They're still in jail right now, right? They said that you have to be issued with a ticket, that if the police capture you and you have marijuana in your possession below a certain quantity, you're gonna write you up a ticket worth $200, and that is it, right? But up to this day, the police is still locking up people for spliffs, right? So they trick the young people of this country and trying to give them the ideology that they could have this liberal use of marijuana. No, I ain't saying to nobody go there and smoke and go there, and not saying that. I just discussing marijuana in the context, right? They told the people that was one of their pledges to the people. That wasn't so. Somebody said about Rasimba, they tricked Rasimba, right? Because the sacramental use of cannabis, they told the Rastafari community that they could only use the sacrament in their place of worship, which is in a church. Who would go to church to smoke marijuana? Right? Think about it, right? They told the Rastafari community that, and Rasimba told them the most sacred place you could have usage would be in your home. So why not allow us that type of freedom? But they completely ignored that because it was never about the locals being involved. They always had it ring fenced to give it to the Canadians, and because a lot of people don't want to admit this, but the sale of marijuana in Barbados is the only cushion between a lot of people and poverty, right? A lot of people in poverty. I live in the
It's
city.
not that you agree, but it's the facts of what it is.
It is the facts, right? I live in the city. I lived in the city, right? So in these communities, I mean, this is widespread throughout Barbados. It's just not the city, you know. You have must see a million little blocks, houses, and stuff like that, right? And the sale of marijuana is a normal use in communities, and the system of Barbados, the education system, when you're not educated and from specific places, it's very hard to thrive, right? And working for $250 and $300 a week, it ain't cutting it for these young people. So the government are helping them, the parliamentarians don't help. You can't get no jobs in the private sector. You're at home, a lot of people in the house, you gotta contribute, you gotta do something some way. You ain't gonna do labor work, you ain't gonna cut cane, you ain't gonna pick cotton, you ain't doing nothing like that, right? Marijuana. And people have been selling it, selling school to children, feeding families. But not only them, you know, the big ups as well doing it, but they're doing it more covert, right? So you even have a lot of people in this country, influential people, selling it, you know, and making millions of dollars and laundering it through their legit businesses,
But
right?
Kimar, can I say something here? And I'm making sure I choose my word wisely. I'm taking the general's advice. But I can't help but asking the question. You know, I grew up in ghetto communities, so I'm very sensitive to these things. I can't forget though, Kimar, there were two white gentlemen when being here. I think it was probably was it 2008? I don't remember 2000 and no 2018. I believe there were two white gentlemen that was on a yacht on a yacht. Was it a yacht or just a boat?
Yeah,
Um, and they it was millions, not this two, not quarter million, but millions, 3 million worth of marijuana was found on that boat, on that yacht, and I was reading it up today. They got away. You know, nothing happened to them. Am I trying to say that this young woman should be, no, not at all. I'm not getting into that at all. I'm just comparing and saying that I know a lot of people that don't look like me, that they smoke a lot of weed and they buy a lot of weed and they deal in a lot of weed. I can say that this is fact. I am saying because I know that's the fact. I'm saying, but I never see them locked up since I've lived in this country. And I'm not trying to say that young people here shouldn't try to find other means of employment. I believe that they should, right? But I just don't. I just it just causes me to think about it when I look at even the quantity and how. But I mean, I don't know. What do I know? Well, continue, Kimar. I'm sorry.
yes. But I'm glad you segue into that. I actually sent something to your phone just now, an article from Barbados today where it says that a general worker was accused of stealing $52,400 worth of cannabis from off the compound of Goddard's Enterprises.
Uh, let me cut you here. Let me cut you here. That facility is rented by customs to store the excess stuff. So even though the facility, the property was owned by them, is at the airport, and they have space, customs and police would use it. Mind you, it should have been better secured, but it the garden facility is just the landlord
Right.
in this case.
Right.
Yes,
Thank you.
understood. I heard that as well. Thanks,
Yes.
Caswell. That's what the explanation I got. Thank you, Caswell.
Yes. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for the disclaimer because I know around myself, issues with anybody. But the point of the matter that I am making here, right, is that you have people who would continually risk their lives to import marijuana in this country because it's very lucrative, right? It's very lucrative. So you have people coming through whatever areas they're coming through to get this marijuana in, right? You have people in the system who do what they have to do or whatever. But it has become a normal thing, and so many countries across the world are legalizing marijuana and making billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars, right? It doesn't help in the country, right? Barbados is the only country that continues to lock up people for spliffs, that continues to disadvantage people who want to step in. But in the same thing, they want to give licenses to specific people. I can't afford a $100,000 license. Marcia, I know how rich you are, but I assuming that you probably can't, casual, you probably can't afford a $100,000 license to cultivate the thing, right? So, but not I don't understand. I understand it quite well, right? Because if we could see here, you got the big players aligning themselves to be the benefactors of it and saying to these people that you have to set up a pharmacy to be able to sell it legally and all of that stuff. And they know full well that most of the people who are involved in this thing that have the challenges with it, that end up in front of the courts, that go to jail for it, that end up dead for it, were mainly poor black people in Barbados.
Yeah.
Tell you something though, this was always a non-starter. But the government got greedy and some of them wanted to smoke their own thing too. I'm not calling any particular names. But first of all, having marijuana and trading in it in the United States is still a federal crime. So if you take the proceeds of crime, let's say you plant marijuana and you sell it even to Canada, but you gotta get the money and put it on an airplane and get to Canada because you cannot pass it through a bank in Barbados because the banks will not deal with that because they will not be allowed then to do correspondent banking. We will be out of the banking system because the United States government will come down on you for using the banks to launder your proceeds of crime because it's still a federal crime in the United States. So before Barbados could get, because they would get so excited about this thing, they should have looked at the reality in the international system. How are you going to sell the marijuana when you outside of Barbados? There are some states in the United States that have legalized the trade in marijuana, but then the people who grow it have the money and barrels in their barns and all kind of stuff because they cannot put it in a single bank. They got millions of dollars in barrels and big suitcases and stuff because they cannot get it in their bank. Now, if the people in the United States can't get United States bank, you really feel that Barbados can ignore the United States bank and get it in the United States bank? It was a joke. It was the same minister underwear, INDAR. I must, I keep saying that. He was pushing it. I remember I was on that select committee of Parliament, and it went to the House set up this committee, and then the Senate had to name people to the committee. I named myself because I was the person in the opposition who would pick the person. So I picked myself and I went on that committee. When we turned up for the first sitting of the committee, Minister WEIR took the chair. I said, what are you doing there? Yeah, boy, but you can't take the chair here. Yeah, you might end up in the chair eventually, but there's a procedure that you have to go through. You just can't assume that you're the chairman and start talking. The clerk has to get nominations and then put somebody in the chair. So eventually he had to get the chair and let the clerk do what he's supposed to do. So they knew they were rushing this thing. Then I saw a lot of people outside, but I thought they were at Sherman Center for some other thing. Next thing you know, I heard they have people outside. I said, who invite them? Because we haven't sat and discussed how we are the procedure for the select committee, how if we can call hear witnesses or if we can just do it, how we can do it. We have not decided that yet. That was our call, and you already got witnesses outside. And the minister denied that he had anything to do with it. He don't know about it. That it's probably the clerk getting because he know the procedures, he was putting things in place. And I said, oh, no problem. Then Rasimba came in and said he got a call from the minister the night before to come to Parliament, to come to the select committee and make a presentation. So I then turned and I asked him to step aside because he lied to a committee of Parliament. You can't lie to Parliament. He did. He said he didn't know nothing about it. And then the same Rasimba on his Facebook page was saying he was thanking the minister for inviting him because the minister called him the night before. And they went back, man, they go, I got a Dixie inside there. They don't want to put me. I said, no. He even turned and went to Reverend Adley and asked Reverend Adley to move me from the committee. I said, he's such an idiot. Reverend Adley can move me from the Senate, but he can't move me from the committee because I put myself. He didn't understand the rules either. But they were rushing to get this thing through. And they didn't listen to anybody. If you go down there by Hammond's factory used to be, but they have this thing now, you will see these fields already wired off with electrical things so that you can plant the marijuana inside there. But you gotta get past the license. So then when you get past the license, you have then to get you have to be able to get the money. How you gonna get the money? And I told them, I said, look, we live in Barbados every year, and you will see that just around the crop time, you see campfires. You don't see campfires in June, August, September. You see them in January, February, March. I said, look, so what will happen? These fellas go and plant the marijuana, and some people go and wait till when it get right and torch it and go below and breathe deep. Because you haven't worked out these things that you can't just plant it alongside the road and talk. You got fences there, fences throw thing over the fence. They just rush. They rush into everything. This was a fast piece of legislation that went through Parliament too, And then with Rasimba and those other guys speaking up and they said, well, okay, well, you can use that at the church and you can grow it in the compound of the church. So you know what will happen. I told them in that committee, you're going to get a few rascals killed. Because a fella ain't get the marijuana, you can sit down, they got some money by the fella's temple, and they can go for it. You ought to sacrifice those people. I made that point to them in the debate. Unfortunately, they don't publish debates. You're going to look on YouTube to see if you see it.
Yeah.
But this was another rush job. And it was never intended, as Kimar said, for the small man. And I can tell you something, for the small man to get involved in the industry, and they got some even medium players. Again, Kimara is right. I happen to have been the first person to manage the National Council of Substance Abuse. As a matter of fact, I set it up. But along with another committee that we had, I was the permanent person, the rest were volunteers. I was the only paid person. And we did surveys, we talked to people, we did all kinds of stuff. And I can tell you, based on that there are communities in Barbados that are supported by the proceeds of the sales of marijuana. People don't eat unless the fellow who's selling the drugs pass some money and get a family.
Correct.
I'm telling you, I'm not asking you. So when you see the police go into these areas and the fella in somebody's house, nobody see, because that fella has given me 3 meals a day, give me money to send my children to school. So, and the politicians know it. That is why the politicians got themselves involved with the drug runners and the drug lords, because the drug lords have loyalty. They bought the loyalty of some of these people in these communities, and the politicians knew it. So, and this Barbados Labour Party administration, they capitalized on it. They got into bed, literally and figuratively, because I even hear now that one of them was involved in a relationship with one of the same drug fellas. And they used those fellas' connections to get elected. So, and that is why they can't do anything with these people, you know, because the people can talk. So that there will be more talk about misfeasance in public office and malfeasance in public office and getting money from them because they got elected with some of the same drug money. These fellas, you think those fellas put their clean money in the campaign, but they have no clean one? And they help out in the campaign. They give people money in the campaign. And then they end up in Parliament as honored guests. So you got to know if you see a drug lord in Parliament as honored guest, you got to know something wrong. I got myself, you must forgive me, but I talk about that all the time.
I
Because
know.
I want the people of Barbados to know the mistake that they made by putting this administration in power and giving them a second chance to do worse. They are corrupt, and they are proven to be corrupt, and by their actions, you don't go. When you get involved with the criminal element. I remember as a little boy, I went to St. Vincent. We at a cadet camp, and one of the cadet officers from St. Vincent told the young ladies, you know, because there are ladies in the camp, Vincent and young ladies, and he told them, if you lay down with the dogs, you're gonna get bite by the fleas. First time I heard it was a little boy in St. Vincent. It stuck with me. These people have laid down with the dogs and got a lot of dog fleas.
Yeah. You know, and I'm glad that Kimar was able to take it up and be able to speak about it without getting into the case itself, because I think it is important. There is I know there's something I want to share, but he doesn't want to share it. But I'm going to repeat it because this is one of the reasons I have some of my very dear white friends have stopped talking to me, because this is one of the first things I was speaking out against on Facebook, right? Because I have the article here where the article, I'm just reading, the article is telling me that there was one, that these people they walk free, right? That the DPP dropped the charges against them. And I'm saying, in Barbados here, this has nothing to do with that, with whether whoever is guilty or not guilty. I am just saying, be careful, Barbadians, because everybody that deals drugs don't look like this. You understand? They're all different types of people in here. And but who take the fall? This, right? This takes the fall. And we have to be careful of that. Yeah?
They own restaurants and they deposit the money as takings from the restaurants. They own clothing stores and they deposit the monies in the stores. Sometimes those stores, 10 people walking when the day come and they could bank $50,000 and takings and that kind of stuff. So it is people that look like this get the dirty and they're the people who end up in jail. But there are the people who are actually the salesmen, but these people are the wholesalers.
Yeah.
Because trust me with this, again, in my own little thing, when I first started to work, I worked in commerce. And you do not buy marijuana on no bill, no line of credit. You know, you don't and you get 90 days to pay, say drive through the bank or anything like that, you gotta pay cash.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if a fella who lives down the road from you and had the money to even buy food, he got a child from some woman and she got him in court because he can't support his child. And then he start all of a sudden to come with a big set of dog. Where do you think he get it from? You think he went pay cash for it? He is only the salesman. And because he had that need, those people who actually do the massive importation would give him some and say, well, you know, you gotta pay for this thing, and if you don't pay for it, somebody keep the money, yeah, dead. That's what just happened, you know. And they sacrifice some young people in Barbados because what happens? And I hope I'm not going too far, but what happens? You are a young person and you are hungry, and somebody tell you, well, I want you to go to New York and bring down the suitcase for me, you're gonna get $7,000 for doing it. All right. So you come down with your suitcase, and the people call ahead and tell them that you coming down with a suitcase of drugs. So the fella's looking for you, and the fella that got 5 suitcases that really got the big stuff, he goes through because nobody looking for him. So you get sacrificed. You got one little bike with some, and the fella sacrificed that a little bit. Just like they do on the course. They call, and the people who are actually sending in the door call ahead and inform the authorities that a boat can land down below this particular point. And the police down there flat on the guts laying down, waiting for the drugs to come in. And the drugs do come in, and the police make a big haul. But the biggest haul, or the bigger haul, was some at the beach with the boy not looking. That is what they do to poor people. They get them locked up. And the people in Barbados, the young people in Barbados, have to be aware of this and realize that they are being used.
Correct.
They are being used by these big players who then turn around and put some of that same money in political campaigns. So even when they get caught, they've been caught. Because they
I'm glad
give
you said it. I'm glad, General. That's the point I was trying to make. I didn't formulate it, but you have said what I was trying to say. I started off by saying I love young people, and I don't know the details of that case. I don't know, but I just wanted to send out a warning to our young people that listen, don't let people sacrifice you. Don't be a sacrifice then. Don't be a sacrifice is what I'm saying. I don't know if it applies to this particular case, but thank you for saying that.
This thing went back, to my knowledge, as far back as 1976.
Okay.
Where a person of prominence in Barbados got a young lady to bring in drugs. That person went caught free. But the young lady, girl from Queen's College, went to jail.
Oh my.
Yeah, she went to jail. And of course, then a politician had to leave Parliament and all kind of stuff. But Marcia, I can send the name of the lady who brought in the drugs and got away with it. So about to get charged. That going way back.
Because I wanted to, I just wanted to say something here. Right, I saw a comment in the thing that has me a little concerned, right? So I just wanted to say something before this thing gets out of hand. This conversation here is not about anybody smoking marijuana. This is not about that.
Correct.
Right? This is not about us. We are not judging anybody. We're not even talking about that. We're talking about general policy and the general outlook of marijuana in Barbados, right? So this is where you get a little thing with particularly like younger folks. Every time the conversation comes out and you're discussing it, oh you're against this and oh yeah, that's so much folly. I can say it right now. I can say this right now. I've given the chance and an opportunity in a very legal way, and all legal way. I've given the opportunity to do so. That they're gonna open up a pharmacy on Broad Street. I doing it. I can say that.
My expression is not about you, Kimar.
I'm not you. No,
I was doing like this because of what Caswell sent me. I can't even show this phone. Oh my gosh. I'm going to erase that from my phone. Caswell sent me the name of the woman that the little Queen's College girl, that based on his story, took the fall for. Right? Which is why I'm speaking to young people tonight. And as I said, we're not talking about that particular case. So it's the young people. Talk to your children. I talked to my son today. He's 20, and I talked to him. But go ahead, Kimar, you're making a point.
Yeah. I know what Kaz was talking about, but yeah. Right. So my thing here is, right, I don't want people to judge us from a hypocritical perspective. And that is to say, because we're discussing an issue, and we had this issue when we were talking about the Chinese as well, right? As soon as we start to talk about what is happening, or Caswell and Marcia and Kimar and Ferdy against the Chinese, and no. We're just discussing what is happening And we need people to focus on the fundamental issue here. Because the issue really here is discrimination against poor black people, you know.
That's it.
Right? One law for the Medes, one law for the Persians. So the people could risk burning marijuana, you get whole coming in, automatically know your name tarnished all over the world. But nobody ain't tarnishing the men know who get hold on the boat with the dope, right? No, nobody ain't tarnishing the man that get hold with $11 million in marijuana in a container in the Bridgestone port.
Correct.
At
11 million. 11 million and 3 million. That is what we're talking about here.
$11 million. And the lawyer said in the newspaper that they should release him because they ain't got nobody to go and manage the business if he lock up. And this is a family business, right? You know, $11 million in drugs in the port. How much time he even do in jail, right? If that was any of us, like Tony Raw, you know exactly how the law courts are going to want to treat you, right? So the same very way, certain groups and classes and creed are allowed to run roughshod all over this country, right? Because we got to segue into another issue, which is drug use in Barbados is stepping up past just marijuana, you know. This
Yes.
thing is into mollies and pills and codeine, all types
Wow.
of hard drugs that in a couple of years Barbados is going to go through a very psychotic wave. A lot of these murders that happen in Barbados, one, gang related, two, drug related, three, most of the people who doing these murders are on mollies and pills, cocaine, marijuana, alcohol. They getting high, drunk, everything, and going out there and killing people, right? So a lot of these drugs that are being shipped in, these synthetic pill drugs that are being shipped in from America and other places coming into Barbados, that these same people shipping in. Because when you're gonna sell marijuana, you're gonna sell it for your bag, right? One of these pills itself, I don't know how much it costs because I don't think those spaces, but they cost $5, they cost $10, 15 or 20. You're gonna go talk money for one, right? You had a young lady recently being killed. Not only killed, she died in this strip club recently on a drug overdose. Hmm.
Mm.
I never heard anybody dying of a marijuana overdose, right? So you have an endemic in Barbados where the mental hospital and our psychiatric services are going to be under severe pressure because our young people are on much harder drugs than marijuana. So while they're trying to lock up people for 5 bags, they're looking at all of the pills and some of these prescription pills too. They're looking at the pills that coming through normally in a bottle, like nothing, right? Because the drug enforcement, I don't know, I was never in customs office or anything, but one of these fellas don't even know what they look like. So they get through the customs and everything fairly easy. And they're selling it on the streets to our children, you know, school children, you know, getting them high and drunk, young lady, young girls getting high on these drugs, going there prostituting themselves and everything. So in a couple of years, you're going to see such a breakdown, like the crack endemic in America, crack pandemic in America. There's so many of our people, and you're seeing it already, you know. Not so much homeless young people are on the streets in Bridgetown. Ask them what happened. Mollies, pills, hard drugs, and them on the streets, right? So we have to look at that and move the debate up because life has gone on. And once upon a time, my grandmother said, "Don't go outside and smoke the dope on the block with the fellas." She meant marijuana, but no, the dope is literally the dope with hard psychotic drugs on the market.
Now, I'll tell you something, see? It ain't only smoking the dope and killing people. It is you have a nice little young daughter growing up, and some person entice her, and then they bring her out into these groups. They give her dope, and then she's gang banged, destroy a little. The nice, probably sometimes even was um had a good future ahead of her, bright and all kind of stuff, and they go up there, and then they end up on the street They walk and the parents looking for they can't find them. They're on the street. I know of a particular case where I sat in the court because I used to be a member of the like a licensed authority for District D. So we did our cases first, and then I sat down in the courts and I watched one. And these people, this guy, if you saw him, you will not believe. If when the magistrate they were asking for maintenance for the child, he took this girl from a house. She had her own room and everything else, and she was living in the gully in the lean-to, a little shed that they built of the sticks and leaves and stuff, and then she threw them in a gully because of the drugs that she was on. Left home, but the family managed to rescue her. Mind you, to rescue her after she was pregnant, but they still get back their daughter. But God knows what she went through in that gully. And this is what happens to young people on drugs, and sometimes they don't even know what happened to them because they're so high. Mind you, people take pictures. And they're going to take the pictures and they blackmail them with them. So you can't speak up now because they will show you involved with animals and that kind of stuff. So you go hush and end up being mental on it. If you open your mouth, they show you these things. And young people have to stop this nonsense. These people out there don't love you. They don't care about you. They just want thrills. It is the devil and those people working through those people and getting you for the devil himself as well. I'm begging the young people to stay away from these people who are enticing them and giving them these little handouts. And if your parents can't afford it, do let me do without till I can afford. I have to tell you now, I've never taken any sort of drugs other than prescription drugs or over-the-counter medication. I only discovered what marijuana was when I became an immigration officer. Mind you, when they burn it at the training session, and they smell it all the time. I know it was marijuana, and it was a full man. I was working and training to be an immigration officer. That's when they found out. But no, you have two little children, 7, 8, and the parents just tell them, "Oh, at the end of the day, you can smoke it." It's open your mind. But marijuana is just a gateway drug to lead you into because you get higher and higher and higher, you want to get a bigger high. So that's you end up with cocaine and all those other stuff. And you mix up all kind of nonsense. But as I sometimes, because cocaine is so dangerous, you could use it for 20 years and nothing happened to you. And then another fella can come and use it one time, heart attack.
Yeah.
It is so unpredictable. You could get away with it, but you'll get away with it. Snort it for the first time, and next time Lyndhurst is putting you on a bike and taking you down the road. Just one use. So it is not something that you should toy with because you don't know when that person you are going to be that person that can get the heart attack from one use. And people tell me, good, it's safe, because it is not safe. These are people who try to destroy your youth, exploit you, take you out for sex and all kind of nonsense, and then you're no good to yourself. Yeah. Sometimes people do come back, but you don't ever be the same again.
Somebody's asking, is there any public health messaging regarding this coming from the government? Because like you, Kimar, you work with young people and you hear the things that are happening, but we don't see any change really that is happening in terms of those same public service announcements. I don't know if they kind of gave up on the whole thing, but Kimar, you said something earlier that really keeps just going. I keep repeating it in my head. You said that somehow there was a false hope that was given to young people, and a lot of young people who are entrepreneurs, they thought that they would have been able to use this method here and make some money, because the problem is the economics. The economic situation is terrible for people to risk all of that, And again, not necessarily talking about this particular, but we know I'm from Jamaica, so I know the drug news and all these different things that happen in all over the world, and for people to risk everything, they see this as a business venture. And so, can you talk to us about the economy? We can segue into the economy and why you think young people resorting to these things? Like,
All
this
right.
is Barbados. This is not Jamaica. Come on.
All right, well, I can go work. I can use a practical example. I
Yeah.
used to work at a hotel, about Sandy Lane. I used to work there for $10 an hour, right? Roughly. So every hour I stand there and they watching my clock, I can earn $10. If I stand there for 2 hours, that's $20. If I stand there for 3 hours, that's $30, right? After 3 hours, they're already frustrated, I tired. The guests grumpy, so they got you grumpy too. And it's just $30 enough. So by the end of the day, you coming home with $80 pay pack
Hmm.
for a whole day, And at $10 is compared to some other people's salaries a lot of money in Barbados, right? So you get home with $80, a whole chicken, a whole chicken, or what's cost $20, right? You barely gonna buy a couple things, eat the money dead. You don't even pay a bus fare. You don't do nothing yet, right? But selling marijuana, I can make that seeing $10 in a minute. I can make that $80 in one shot. In fact, I can make $80 500 times for the day,
Yes.
as opposed to going in the workplace, got to deal with all of these rules, got to deal with all these piggish, snobbish people who really don't care nothing but who treat you real bad. They're always looking for reasons to cut your pay, right? And the treatment in the workforce, in a space for promotion and upliftment. I remember we talking about people who don't necessarily and the majority of people who don't necessarily have a higher level education are still people with higher level education still struggle because at universities you always got people who sell marijuana on the campus. Right? So it's not only low level society, at every level it's got somebody who would provide outlets for these things, right? So the amount of money you can make doing this thing, and because it's illegal in Barbados, the price is very high, right?
Mm.
So in the retailing it, you earn a lot of money and you earn it quickly. You don't necessarily got, as I said, the pressures of the workplace. You're not able to get economic upliftment. So you're able to buy a shirt, your first shirt. You're able to buy your first pants. You're able to
Mm.
buy your first pair of shoes without your parents having to give it, or without having to go and steal, or without having to do anything strange for that money. You got it.
Yes.
You might be able to give a brethren or a sister something, a gift, you know. You might be able to send school a little niece that in the house that ain't went to school for real. It's because they ain't got any uniforms, they don't got nothing to eat. So you're able to do, so it gives you, the spending power gives you some type of opportunity to uplift yourself and
Hmm.
uplift others around you that the traditional job system would never give you. Or you gotta go and wait 20, 30, 40 years to get put in a position now, and you go from $80 a day now to 100 or 120. And look at the economic situation, Marcia. Bus fare high. Eh, right, let me just say I advocated, I not advocated it. I just discussing the reality
Yes.
of the
Because I know
situation.
yeah, people will, but it's a reality. It's a reality. Yeah.
Right.
Go ahead. I
But
understand.
I know it sounds like a great sales pitch, but don't be enticed by my sales pitch. Don't be enticed by my sales pitch. I just giving you the everyday reality of so many people around me, especially in the city and this St. Michael. Well, it's all over Barbados now, not St. Michael, just St. Michael. So that opportunity to advance yourself, right? You ain't gotta go to school and try to burst your brain to try to like focus on that hard schoolwork. So you end up out on the block and you're selling and you get the camaraderie, and you get the respect, and you get the love, and you get a girl, and you get, you get the self-actualization. If you understand Maslow's hierarchy of needs, the economic spending power, it was if you were selling anything that was legal. It is the same thing. They see it as the same thing. They don't see it as this jaw-dropping wrong or societal ill that they're doing. And they're just hustling. They're just selling the thing because, we gotta make that money. So that's all it is in the minds of the people who do this thing, right? Because in their minds, the traditional system does not take care of them. And even if it does, the money is peanuts, right? It is peanuts. It doesn't really help to get them to achieve what they want to achieve. So they use it as the avenue, even if it is wrong. All right, I ain't debating if it's wrong or right. I just saying this is what they do for themselves. So when you go canvassing in a constituency and you trying to talk to some of the young people or whatever, they tell you straight, boss, I ain't gonna drop. I sell weed. I sell drugs. This how I live. If I don't sell drugs, my daughter can't go to school. I can't eat if I don't sell this thing because if I go to a politician, all he can do is give me a weed whacker. Right? Or,
No pun intended there.
Right? But there's what it is on the real. That's and any more difficult or any more technical, that is the vehicle for people that have their economic. It shouldn't be so, right? That's why we're supposed to have governments to provide legit opportunities for people to economically uplift themselves and entrepreneur. Come, most of these fellas are very entrepreneurial minded.
They're entrepreneurial, but even if we think about think about the economy and the kind of loans that Barbados has, and where you think this is 2024, people are, parents are, some of these parents are, they're concerned, are they going to lose their jobs? What's going to happen? It is just so much uncertainty because the economy is in such a poor position at this time, which is then causing, not that somebody said two wrongs don't make a right, but the point is that people have to eat, and so we might end up with more of these situations.
I would advise anybody in Barbados right now, if you're going to go and commit to yourself to any major capital thing like getting a mortgage, hold off. Especially if you are working in the public sector, because public servants going home. The
Mm,
IMF has already dictated that, and the government has not said to the IMF, um, no, 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 no. We are a small society. Nobody can't go over the border and work. So we have
mhm,
to keep our people employed. The last administration under Frandl Stewart, they fought hard to keep employment in place. Yes, they did send home some people,
mhm,
but they were fighting, and they were borrowing from national insurance and the central bank to keep these people paid. This
mhm,
government has never told the IMF no once. Whatever the IMF tells them to do, they're doing. So we're gonna have a lot of cutbacks. We're gonna have
mhm,
cutbacks in our health system because you're not gonna be able to afford the hospital. You know what's happening at the hospital already. It's best not go there if you don't have any. If you have options,
mhm,
the education, the Dems had made put positions in place where you would pay some of the economic costs for your education. The Barbadian Party said, no, that's wrong. We can't do that. No, you're doing it again and paying more. But they're not saying that. So a lot of people will get the opportunities. If you have the opportunities, you might be able to travel and go and find a job elsewhere, because our nurses are getting through when they leave Barbados and go to New York and Canada and stuff. They're getting a good job. But
mhm,
how many? And the thing is, the government is so short sighted that they're cut back on the amount of nurses that they're training, and then they're bringing cheap ones from India, Nigeria, Cuba, Now Guyana, rather than put Barbadians in place, train them to get that slack, but but they won't pay them cheap, see? And when you have too many trained, you export them. The Philippines have an industry in nurses. They train more nurses than they need. Every year, the Philippines train enough nurses, and those nurses are deployed all over Europe, the United States, England, because they understand that if you have a skill, you can look. You remember when Burnham was president of Guyana? Burnham put in place, if you wanted to go to university, you had to do some sort of, we call it national service. It was, and you had to learn 2 trades. And then after a while, every work site in Barbados had 6 Guyanese on it, and a Bajan paying the bills. Because the Guyanese were coming and they're working for less Barbados dollars, but they were sending it home. And the exchange rate. So, but they had their skills. So government is not training people so that you can be marketable. So that is what's going to happen. You can find the marijuana trade if you're going to other skills. And you see how many vendors they have in Bridgetown? No, because at least you're making an honest dollar, and just sometimes it's honest 50 cents because you're making $1.
Correct.
Because there are too many of them. But government, I don't know what they were thinking. They don't understand this society. All they understand is, well, I can get a power and I can get some big bucks and I can get a big pension. They don't understand how the society works. And as a result, they are not provided the kind of opportunities that will uplift this country and uplift the people of this country. So when you see me sinking into this quagmire of drugs and debt and unemployment all mixed up in one, it is because we have a poor government. They will come and all this government has is PR.
Yeah, because you saw right, right? Well, you stop. Right. You saw right, Caswell, right? And it's so shameful. It's so shameful that look at our sportsmen, right? This my last point on this because I really want to. I got my thing ready. Cause I want to move on to the next segment, right? But it's so shameful, right? That the government look at the state of the national stadium. The national stadium that's right in the heart of the constituency of the prime minister, Seneca Northeast, right? We had Shade Williams. Where was she training? Where was she training? Right? Where were all of the top Barbadian athletes training? Right? And the same way you could get $80 million on a switch, that's you just needed to put aside 20 to build the stadium. You're making it a month, right? All of this money, billions of dollars borrowed from the IMF. Look at the stadium, right? Kensington Oval. You're gonna borrow $50 million from the Exim Bank to repair Kensington Ovals or gonna hold a World Cup for a couple of weeks. What about the National Stadium? Right? Nothing done to facilitate young people in sports, right? Besides giving them a little trophy or a little honor, right? When Ryan Braffett won a gold medal, they try to trick the people because somebody wanted special permission to subdivide land. So
Not somebody. Carl Williams.
Right?
Carl Williams wanted to subdivide some land, and they gave Ryan Braffett a piece of the land and said, well, if the government cut off his so he could get it, then they were going to give permission to cut the rest. That is what was happening because that land was prime agricultural land, and he wanted to do housing and stuff, and they gave Ryan Braffett peace, and the government would not allow him to cut it up. When you got the facts, you could cut them.
Yeah, well, there you have it. So my thing is, you do nothing to facilitate. Look at the state of our cricket team. Look at the state of West Indies cricket. Look at the state of football in Barbados. Look at the state of netball. Right? Road tennis was our national sport. Now the Chinese have adopted road tennis. Right? So even when these young people get the opportunities to play for Barbados and other places, you don't get the support from the government. Right? You have young people who training for the national squad and they go sell weed during the day because they can't get a job. Right?
Wow.
Right?
So you're
Ah,
telling me you have athletes who are selling. I'm trying to understand how that works. You have athletes selling weed in the day.
that's your day job. You gotta sell weed because you still gotta get money to make it to training wherever the training is. It's some backwater pasture, the pastures that are never cut in Barbados, and all the lights and everything falling down at nights, right? Because that's your day job. You ain't got no other job, and I would think that if you having the honors of playing for the country, the least the government could do is find you a job. Would the government no cut the BDS sports program, right? So they're cutting all of the legs off, all of the legit
Wow.
opportunities. They're just cutting and slicing, refusing to invest money in them. But the facilitating access to drugs, right? The facilitating access to drugs. So my thing is here, and this Shadia Williams, right? One of Barbados' best recently in terms of performance and everything. You would think that the government want to produce 1,000 more Shadia Williams in Barbados. No, no, we don't want that. We don't want that, right? Help to push these people up, but they're not doing that. So it is a national disgrace, right? And this is very directly speak directly to the Prime Minister now. It is a national disgrace that after representing St. Michael Northeast since 1994,
Mhm.
and you being the Minister of Culture, Youth, and whatever, Minister of Education, Deputy Prime Minister, Attorney General, no Prime Minister and Minister of Finance, having borrowed all of this money from the IMF from all over the world, all of these bonds, because and that's what I'm going to show the people of this thing next, on the show next. All of the loans and the repayment, I'm going to show you that next, right? So they borrowed all of these things, but they're begging the Chinese for grant money to build the stadium. You believe that? I still have to know. Let's look at the national stadium right in the heart of the constituency of the Prime Minister Bashar, right? And that is the biggest disgrace to the sportsmen of this country, past, present, and future sportsmen, right? That is the insult to all of the young people, right? All of the young people. The government came in, the government cut the summer camps, right? They
Right.
cut they cut that, right? So all of the investments that the government put aside to put there for the young people, they either cut them, they refuse to invest in them again, like the stadium, but you would go and spend $50 million to go and repair. Kensington Oval was only built joint on our first time,
World Cup 2007.
right? World Cup, they upgraded it that time. So why would you go and spend $50 million again to build back a Kensington Oval? But I know where to do it because remember it was on this show, Marcia, that
Mhm.
we showed the people that the government was intended to sell that property. Kensington Oval,
Yeah.
over by Central Purchasing because they want to build a whole hotel opposite the gas station where the soldiers usually stand up with the guns that crop over. They
Mhm.
intended to put a hotel there, and they intended to develop the whole port there and extend the Bridgetown port by another $100 million in investment from the same African Exim Bank, right? They have $100 million in investment to invest in the Bridgetown port, and they're gonna put a hotel there with a marina that you can bring in your boats, drive in your boats into there. They hold the harbor master used to drive in, get up the boats, and walk straight in the hotel and use Kensington Oval as it. They would do that for the tourists, and they would do that for investment and to make money. but they will never put the money in the national stadium to give the young people a chance to uplift themselves in this country. And they should really look at paying the people who represent Barbados a proper pay, because whatever stipend if they pay them, even if they do, is not enough to make a living. So even if you represent this country, you still cannot make a living off it. So what's the sense anyway? If I hope they're sweating blood, sweat, and tears to make the country look good, and then they gotta come home and sell weed. Right? But that's my last point on that.
Yeah, this is something, Mr. Franklin, that really bothers me a lot. And it's very difficult, and you're going to see. I keep telling my husband this thing. I know Kimar has to move on. Mr. Franklin, it bothers me because I see where there is a subculture, right? And if I'm wrong in saying this, you guys can let me know.
You're
But
not
I'm
wrong.
just speaking my heart. There's a subculture that is here in Barbados, and if we don't pay attention, what I'm trying to say to us as a Jamaican is that subculture is going to overrun us. It's going to take over. I was with I'm gonna let me try to say this. I was speaking to someone about a young man in our community that I try to make sure that he has, he does stuff around, help out, and we try to take care of him. And I said to the person, I do this because it's important for him. He has needs and so on, and so that he don't go and bother people around here, and so on. And she said, I would like you to know that is not Barbados. That what he's doing, that's not Barbados. That's not Barbados. And she is somebody like a permanent secretary, and I kept quiet because of where I was, because I didn't want to create a. But she was quick to say that boy doesn't represent Barbados. That's not who we are, and that's the problem. They don't understand. This is my view on it. They don't understand how large this subculture is, and that we're at the brink of it becoming who we are. This is who we are. But
You
they're
see,
quick to dismiss it and say, "Oh, that's not us. That's the Jamaicans." And don't you ever try to say. I wasn't trying to say that this is Barbados. I'm saying that there's a growing subculture, and we're going to take care of these people.
yeah. And the politicians know that only too well, and they're encouraging it because you know when you have people out there with clear minds and stuff, they will analyze. You want to make them mendicants of your political party so they can do what they want you to do at the time. Give them 5 more years, give them 5 more years, and you feel good. They're not uplifting those people. As a matter of fact, let me do something. When I was a young man, I went through enough elections. Elections usually were a 3 week thing. After 3 weeks, you got the two camps divided. Everybody cursing one another for their political party. But as soon as the elections finish, everybody come back together. The fellas drink the rum on the shop counter thing, and everybody friends again. The politicians in Barbados, particularly this group, try to make sure they want to keep that division not for 3 weeks elections, that election period anymore. They want to keep it going on and on and on and on, and call it, and many people identify themselves as B's and D's throughout the whole time. And as a result, we're going to end up just like how it was in Jamaica. That Jamaica was trying to pull back from. We know Jamaica is trying to pull back from it, but we are heading helter skelter to get to that point because we have put our people in political camps and give you jobs if you are a politician. I work for a politician, and I remember him saying to people when somebody said, "But that boy's a big them," and he would say, "But the boy's a Bajan too." And he didn't look at politics when it comes to helping people with jobs. If you wanted a job, how he used to look for a job for you if there was a need, whether you were B, D, or Q.
Correct.
He would say, but he's a Bajan too. And you gotta help them. And I can tell you something. As a result, he was probably one of the most successful politicians that St. Thomas ever saw because Tom Adams was not the best, was more successful than anybody else, because St. Thomas was divided, but he had the majority. But when this politician that I worked for came in, he united everybody. He didn't stay and say, well, look, that's a damn area, I ain't going in there. He went into them and eventually he won them. Because then he went in there and encouraged the people. He didn't try to create division. He tried to create a community. But right now, the politicians here trying to divide and rule so that they can win. And they're destroying the society. You gotta get a job. My office was on White Park Road at one stage. Just a couple of 100 yards, not even 200 yards from the National Assistance Board. As a matter of fact, it was less than 100 yards, I think, as the crow flies. And some young ladies came to see me one day. I knew them when they were, but I knew their mothers. And then I knew them as babies. So they went to the National Assistance Board to get a job. And the person there tell them, you go and get a letter from your minister. Well, I was a senator then, and they didn't differentiate between senator and minister. So they came to me for me to write a letter for them. Right, so I had to explain to them the realities. So you cannot get a job even cleaning after old people if you are not politically associated. You got to have strings in politics. You got a political sponsor to get into cleaning old people's houses and to clean old people in the mess of diapers. Even that, you have to a politician get themselves involved in. So from permanent secretary all the way down to general worker, politicians have been destroying this place to make sure they survive politically. And the longer they remain in power, the more mendicants they will get, and it will remain like that. Because we have people in this country who do not go and look for a job until their party is in power. And then when their party in power,
I'm saying, I know Kimar, I want him to come on here, but just as a Jamaican, I just want to just underscore this, what you're saying, and we need to keep this conversation going because my heart is about this for this subculture. I tell you, Mr. Franklin, it was when I know you would say you repeat your story, but I will repeat this just short to say, Kimar, that it is when I saw what happened on Easter. Ask my husband. I literally jumped out of bed. I said, no. This is very, very dangerous. You know what I mean? Up there in Deacons.
Yes, I remember quite well.
I said, that is very, very serious. When you have the leader of a country can call, I'm just speaking what was in the newspaper, can call somebody off the streets. Or somebody off the streets can call I called my mother and told her about it. They could not believe it. They said, Barbados? That's when I got involved. And also, I was told by somebody very reliable. So I'm going to repeat it because it's somebody very reliable who said it to me, that this was one of the things that Mr. Arthur was trying to shield us from. Where we get into garrison politics.
No, I disagree. He didn't shield us from anything. He led us into it, right? And I'm going to say he led us into it because this major activity started in St. Michael Northwest when Clay Maskell went up against Chris Sinclair. The amount of money that was spent in that constituency to make sure that Clay Maskell did not win it, and money that was spent by members of the Barbados Labour Party who did not want Clay Maskell in there to threaten their position to ascend to leadership, that is when this whole thing started. That is when garrison politics in Barbados started, when people started to buy constituencies. I can't correct me if I'm exaggerating on this one.
I'm not going to correct you on that score. I'm going to correct you and tell you that but not say you may marry because it was Owen Arthur who created this monster. But when he tried to kill it, it was too late. I think it's more that. I wrote to him. I could probably find the letter pointing out that she's a megalomaniac, despotic, and all kind of stuff in a letter they wrote to him. And they fired me. They fired me. They put me to work because I saw what was happening and I refused to get involved in that. And then when they fired me, then when he found what happened, he sent somebody to apologize to me. Here we tell you. And I tell the body that you are doing that and go back and tell you and expletive, and whatever because I was raising children at the time and they fired me because I stood up. So when he found out I was telling the truth, he then wanted to talk to me again, but I don't want to talk to him. So he created it. You're right. He created it. Nobody, so everybody said, oh, that was right. I told him so before. I was shocked when I see making the same statements that I wrote to him outside the house. And this thing, I said, Lord, look, and they get fired.
But I think the point I was making though, it's where I think he was trying to pull it back because when now you're you are now your vote, and if you don't vote, because where this is going, the potential of this is that people who don't vote for a particular party could be removed. And I'm saying that because I lived that in Jamaica, where you have to whisper to say which party you're from. And they, it is something that you see that is brewing and with the subculture. But over to Kimar, we cut into your time, and Miss McLean is waiting to talk about those diplomatic passports. Don't go. The show hot tonight. Over to Kimar and then Miss McLean.
Yeah, well, I just gonna make one last point. Practical experience again now. When I contested in the city of Bridgetown, right, in the 2022 general election, when on election day, I was in there, I was driving around the constituency, whatever, and I turned into a particular neighborhood. I ain't gonna say which one it is, but I turned into a particular neighborhood, and when I turned in, the car that I was driving was swarmed with people, just swarming. I don't know how to know that I was in that car because the windows were dark, right? But the swarming. When I hold up my hand and realized what was happening, you had people in the road from the top of Broad Street to the bottom of Broad Street just standing up in the road. And the people allowed me to know, well, you cannot here to do what's right. I said, what you mean do what's right? He said, well, you're going to set me before day because, none of us ain't moving from here unless you pay me. Right? And I was held to almost ransom. They have to pay all of these people. I mean, almost like hundreds of people that just sitting down there and couple people say, well, I got all of the ID cards, just talk to me and give me the money. I can make sure everybody come and this is straight. This can't happen. I didn't know that it was like this, right? I really, really didn't know that this is what you have to do to win the seat. And people say, well, your opponent already come already and he offers 250 a man. Right? He offers 250, but we don't really want to work with you. We'd rather work with you. So if you could come up with saying, matching that or topping it, all the way in here can vote for you. But I had to say, no, I can't go like this. I can't go like this. I don't want to start this. I really really don't want to get involved. But the reality is it exists, right? So it's not a case where the politicians going up there and enticing people to say, well, I give you 500 to go and vote for me. The people now standing up and saying to you, we ain't gonna vote for you unless you pay. Right? So there was a lot of votes that I really couldn't get. So understand the disparities in votes based off what I just said to you. And that didn't only happen in Bridgetown. That happened in a lot more constituencies where we had pictures of Liz Thompson in standing in St. James South.
Hansville.
With a big strap around her shoulder bag. God knows what she had in the bag giving up down there.
I was going to say we don't know what she was giving out. We don't know what was in the bag. Right. Yeah.
But the allegations were swirling. because a lot of money was spent on the ground in Barbados on election day to make sure that the vote went a particular way. The police officer that blocked me from going into the polling station said to me straight in my face, "You're bringing all these people to vote for you. You can't win the seat vote here. You're winning the seat vote here again. Make sure you don't win." And the man blocked the candidate, although he has no type of power to block me. Only the returning officer president could have done that. He's telling me he can't enter here. So when I went to go through, he stand up in the way and he blocked me out. And I had to shout and make the most noise in Barbados for that returning officer to get her off of her behind and come to the door and rule that he has to move because he cannot block me, the candidate, from entering this polling station having done nothing wrong. And 6 o'clock ain't gone, but he's trying to shut the gate and all the people to be shutting the gate to block me from bringing people to vote. Right?
But Kimar, this is what I'm saying, and again, I am open to correction, but I just go into what I'm feeling. I am saying if that was happening then, think about what is happening now with this program, the sponsored program that they were doing with the peace program. The potential, even though it's a good program, the potential of that going bad, because you see ghetto people. I grew up in the ghetto. Ghetto people are loyal people, and whoever give them the money, let me tell you, whoever gives them money, they become loyal to them. And that peace program, though it had had the potential of changing people's lives. Can you try to imagine what will happen in some communities during election time? Think about it. I know Barbadians, we were very innocent and we don't understand, but I lived through that. You understand me?
Marcia, you keep saying that program had a good thing. It was conceived badly, very poorly. It didn't have anything to change any lives. We heard our lives. It was just a way of another PR thing. They knew who the killers were. Remember, we had too many murders and stuff, and they want to get rid of some. They want to stop it. So they went to the murders and said, "Stop killing people. They're making me look bad." And the murders went down. That is what happened. And then they get him $8,000 and and then the little ones at the bottom get $2,000. And then the other people who had programs, now, if you have a program, and you put it to this committee, to these people, you say it is you want $50,000 to run a program or $60,000 or whatever amount of money. Some has to go back. So it didn't have any good intention. This was just a way for people to get their hands on the government money and to do a lot of PR nonsense. It didn't. What structures? Tell me one success that this program had. How many lives it influenced for the better? How many people they taught to fish? And you take active criminals, people who are still involved in crime, and asking them and telling them to go on top, trying to persuade other people. If you can laugh at you because the people know you don't road, still robbing, still stealing, still shooting, yeah. but it's not shooting because when the conditions to get the money is that you can't shoot nobody. So they knew who the people were. If the politicians, these politicians in Barbados are so wrapped up with the criminal element. The police, I'm saying they got hands almost up in the air because there's so much crime. And the politicians go and tell the fellas might make you look bad, pull off a little bit, don't kill nobody, no. And they crime back down. And so you had to stop, you had to give them something, So you had to come up with something. And that program, and you get someone to get $8,000. They only admit they're giving $2,500 to some people, but that was the fellas at the bottom, the soldiers, the fellas at the generals, well, probably lieutenants or colonels. They were getting $8,000.
Privates, guys, privates.
Yeah. The privates were getting those who don't know to pray because when election time, we can't wear. They want us to not be able to wear a yellow shirt and not be able to wear a red shirt. That is what they're trying to do. I am telling you, that's where they're getting at this kind of partisan thing. That's where they're getting at Barbados, where you can't wear a yellow shirt in thing, and you can't wear a red shirt. You understand? Because or they would take care of you. I am telling you, be careful. But poor Kimar trying to make up some points, but probably Kimar, we don't distract tonight. But go ahead, try.
Well, I mean, I was saying this my last, but this conversation is so juicy, right? It's difficult. But the government did something very. You remember when the guys put out this video? It was on the Trojan Rhythm. It was Lil Rick, Peter Ram, Chief Ding, Quan the artist, Screwface, our favorite guy, Screwface,
Yes.
and they put out some dub songs, you know, and the prime minister did the whole press conference talking about how they put out a video encouraging gun violence and murders and start to blame the musical artists for the crime rate, right? Before the Bajan music came up, in terms of this dub and videos, the murder rate in Barbados in the first 2 years of the Barbados Labour Party, the murder rate was the highest in Barbados ever seen. Before those fellas really took off, I know, cause most of them from the city, right? And I know a lot of them personally. Before these fellas really started to sing and push their music online, the murder rate in Barbados was the highest ever seen, right? And then on top of that, Corey Lane, who is the minister of crime, was in a movie killing a man and dumping him in the wharf, right? He, our minister for crime, a government minister, killing a man in a movie, you know, killing a man and dumping him in the wharf. But they have time to talk about guys who singing about guns and music and shooting. We sit down and watch Rambo. A lot of people died in Rambo. Rambo then instigate me to attack. I'm gonna go shoot nobody. You understand? So we watch these things on TV every day, right? We listen to it from the Jamaican music. The politicians have dubs and fets and everything happening where the same dub music constantly playing. Right? They didn't say that the music was responsible for the murder rate, right? So we had a police shooting a soldier in the police station, right? Nothing. His name was Pablo Kings. Shot dead in the police station. Nothing ever came of that, right? So you see the hypocrisy
Yeah.
of the government officials as it relates to this issue, where they wanted to blame a set of people singing music, you know, for the high murder rate in this country. I know they say now that the decrease in the murder rate was because the peace program and they went and brokered some peace deal between the gangs to start killing people, right? But
You just made the point that I made, that they knew who the killers were.
hmm,
If they knew who the killers were, they were supposed to tell the director of public prosecution and the commissioner of police. They were not supposed to go and pay them and tell them don't kill nobody. So they knew who the murderers were, and they could identify them and then give them money to say don't kill now. That is the government that we have elected. Not we. I didn't vote for them. Really, that voted for, and, and we need to get rid of them because they have not done anything uplifting for Barbados. Everything they have done was against the people of this country, starting from White Oaks.
Yeah.
In the first couple of days of the of that's the Motley administration, they broke their promise with that. They, and mind you, brought in White Oaks before having a cabinet in place. The cabinet didn't get hired yet. So they knew what they were planning. They knew what they were planning all along, because you don't come up with this White Oaks, and mind you, White Oaks people were unemployed, so you could get them easy because they didn't have to. Because they're White Oaks, they're for the years 2 years prior, their returns to the corporate registry in England was $0.0. They made £0.0 for the 2 previous years, so they weren't working, so they could get
Yeah.
them easy. But they knew so they had to be somebody's friends. That but that is everything with friends. You bring a man for tourism, he's somebody's friend. You know what he's doing. So they get involved with the wrong people. Somebody
Yeah.
what they just know, but one, they rub shoulders with the bosses, the crime bosses, and so you expect to happen, and that's what's happening. So they knew who the crime bosses were.
Yeah.
And, and so
Somebody said when you do that, you become a shutter boss.
you see, I don't know what shot boss is, you know. Um,
You-
you see, but they knew who they were. So within days, they can gather up these fellas and call them to a meeting and have a, and maybe they said had a memorandum of understanding or whatever they had, so that you ain't gonna kill, but we can give a piece of change, so you ain't gonna kill them. But they knew who the drug, they knew who they were. So
Yeah.
and this is so what they should be doing is referring their knowledge to law enforcement. But why they can't do that, because they want the votes that these people can command for them.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
This
that's
country
that's
has now
that's the thing.
become like Sicily, home
Yeah,
of the mafia.
Jamaica is moving away from that kind of politics. It
And
has not worked.
we're heading hard to get there.
And we are heading hard there. And I'm saying to my Bajan people, open your eyes, please. See what is happening, and continue to fight with your social media. Continue fight. Don't give up your country. Don't give up this beautiful country to these terrible people. Kimar, I think you might have to deal with this topic another time, because you are going to go deep down into charts and graphs, and I think we need to flow with this. What are you thinking?
Well, I love it. I love any conversation. Um, or it's good. It's good that we could unravel the social issues happening. But I mean I could do it now because I guess if you
Yeah,
don't want,
if you take a
it's,
couple minutes, because I did promise Miss McLean, and she's prepared to
yeah,
talk about the passports,
right. It's,
diplomatic passports, and let us decide as a people, what is it we want from the government visa. But go
yeah,
ahead and take a couple minutes and jump in, because somebody said we want to hear about the loan payments.
yeah. But I'm gonna share my screen now. Tell me
Yes,
if you
go
see
ahead.
me. Right. I'm gonna show you here how the government. What we're looking at on my screen, can you see it? Just let me know. What we're looking at here is the estimates of Barbados, draft estimates of Barbados 2023 to 2024, right? So these are the supplementals that the government approves. So when the government does their budget, they can then come back later on in the year and call for a supplementary estimate, right? And take out additional money that was not budgeted in the first budget and take it out later, right? Look at what we have here. The government took out an extra $76 million on December 19th, and they took out an extra $23 million on the same day, and a supplementary estimate. And ask them where the money is for, they can't get explained to you, right? So these are the slights and the subtle things that the government uses to siphon money out of the system when nobody's looking, right? Next slide here. So you see they took out 106 extra $1 million out of the government system without anybody even noticing, because it was not in the first budget. What we have here is a statement of public debt, and the statement of public debt is taken front at December 31st, 2022, right? And I just want to come down to show you exactly. Ah, so you have local loans. This is the local aspects, right? I want you to look in the columns to see the repayment dates on some of these things. So we have the cursor here, where it says redemption date, right? And this aspect here particularly is local loans, right? So this is where we have. I ain't get to the international part yet. Locally, look at these dates: September 30th, 2034, September 30th, 2035, September 30th, 2037. Right? So the government takes out these loans and has some very long repayment periods for these loans, which traps governments into repaying these things. So I don't really want to focus on the local aspect. I want to get to the international aspect to show you exactly, because the government has been borrowing more foreign money than usual. So we have here, look at this redemption date here. This particular bond that we have here is approximately 1 billion Bajan dollars, right? a bond that was issued on the 11th of December 2019. $1 billion, right? And the repayment or the redemption date on this thing is the 1st of October 2029, right? $1 billion. So this was a 10-year bond, right? That is going to be redeemed in 2029 on the 1st of October. $1 billion. We're hoping everybody could see that, right? $1 billion. Come down again. Right? And look at the interest rate on this thing. 6.5%. Remember that the government, in particular, Kevin Greenidge, Marshall Cattle, the Prime Minister, all of them, got them. I said that the government was only borrowing 1 and 2% loans from the international system. You remember that very well, right, Caswell?
Oh, definitely.
But well, look at what we have here, 6.5%. So again, lies, and more lies, right? 2029, $1 billion in a bond that they borrowed here. Come down again, right? Those are the savings bonds. These are the repayments dates for the savings bond. Treasury bills. Look at this. The government owes in treasury bills. Look at the amounts outstanding. $495 million in treasury bills the government owes to people. Remember, the government is one of the only governments in the world to restructure treasury bills. That was only ever done in Russia, Ukraine, and Uruguay. So Barbados, making world economic history, was the 4th country in the world to ever restructure its treasury bills. I love how much they owe the people. $495 million. You know that the government has to repay all of that, right? But they ain't paying back nobody. Okay? Look at this again. Temporary loans, temporary borrowings, Financial Management and Audit Act. Another $214 million amount outstanding that the government owes, right? All of these things are not included up front in the information that they will tell you, but all of it is here, right? Another $214 million they said were temporary borrowings. Come down again, right? Appendix C note. The government owes British American Insurance Corporation $93 million in a series of bonds, right? $93 million in one breath. And then they owe another $8 million in another breath, right? Come down again. They don't got the dates on these ones, but come down again. This is the BOSS program that they have. They said that they raised $83 million in BOSS bonds, right? Then BOSS Plus, which is the BOSS 2, they said that they earned 32, or they need to repay $32 more million on that one, right? Come down again. This is under the Special Loans Act that the government borrowed. And if you can see the total here, I'm going to zoom in on that for us, that we can see here. The government, look at my cursor right here, under the Special Loans Act. The government issued what they call blue bonds, right? $146 million they owe on them. Two blue bonds, right? $146 million. Twice, they have it listed. The government owes Republic Bank $9 million for the ABC Highway, right? So the same ABC Highway that we drive on, the government still owes for that. They owe Republic Bank $9 million. The prison that was built by the Barbados Labour Party, you see that we still owe $197 million on the prison. But it says here the Barbados Correction Corporation. The Barbados Correction Corporation Prison Lease Facility. The government of Barbados only paid back a couple of million on it, and they still owe after all of these years $197 million. When the government came into power, this particular prison loans was one of the loans that they restructured because they took it out, right? I remember the company that called Vico, right? One of the most corrupt deals to build that prison. And the people from Vico were criminals, and Caswell could back me up on this one. The people from Vico were charged in international courts for corruption so many times. But our government entered into a deal with them, Vico, to build a prison after circumventing a lot of the financial rules to get that loan approved, right? And you can see here that the government still owes $197 million on the prison. And Mayor Motley, I believe, was the Attorney General at the time and had responsibility, but as she was Deputy Prime Minister at the time, as to overseeing this thing. 197 million today, right? We passed that now. The government here, the next line here, $44 million they owe to the International Bank for Reconstruction and Development. Again, borrowed under the government. COVID-19, a second HIV and AIDS project. I have not really heard anything about the government promoting HIV and AIDS projects, but they borrowed $44 million for it. COVID-19 response and recovery development policy loan, $200 million the government still owe on that, right? The European Investment Bank gave Barbados a COVID-19 health resilience loan. This loan was originally for $108 million. The government paid back and only owe $21 million on it now, right? Up to today, the government still owes, and I think this was taken up under the last administration, the smart meter transformation project, around 63 million. Sam Lords, look at it. Exim Bank of China, the Sam Lords Hotel project. The government owes $332 million, right? But this figure here, this does not equate to the total spend, because I know the spend for Sam Lords actually surpassed 400 million. But they have that they bought 340. So these are things that we need to question, you know. But they're reporting that they owe $323 million they still owe on Sam Lord, right? And these are only special loans, you know. So in total, the government owes in total $1.3 billion in special loans. And look at all of them listed right here. Look. Oh, I'm gonna zoom it in some more that you can see the names of the people that we owe this money to. Look at it right there, look. Republic Bank, the prison, International Bank for Reconstruction, European Economic Community, European Investment Bank. We have not borrowed on the private investment market, Citibank, because of the debt restructuring. We are banned from borrowing on the private investment market. Up to today, because of the government defaulted on the loans, we can't borrow from those banks, right? Exim Bank of China, look. Sam Lords, special loans, look at it. 1.3 billion that the government still owes, right? So I'm gonna come down quickly again. Look at how much all of the loans that the government owes to the CDB Bank. Look at the loans the government has. Remember, some of these loans, I must say that some of these loans were borrowed under the last government as well, and some of them were borrowed under the previous one after government as well, because government is a continuum, and you will have to pay, you have to continuously pay the loan. So any other administration coming in now will have to repay the loans that the Barbados will probably take out, you know. You can't cancel them. But look at the amounts. The government owes the CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank, $475 million as of December 2022, 31st. 475. Right? Come down, the IADB. Look at the amount of loans that we have from the IADB. And our total debt portfolio to the IADB, you know, this is one bank. The government owes the IADB $1.2 billion. And that has nothing to do with the amount of loans that they took out for the financial year that I just passed. Look at all of the loans here. You can see uh what is happening here, right? Look at all of the loans here. Look, a COVID-19 program, $240 million for COVID program. You believe that? One of the biggest scams in the world. Look at it. Look at all these loans that the government owes. So you can see why the IADB can do what they feel like in Barbados, bring set surveys, violate the directives of the ministers of government, because look how much money we owe to them, right? And they've been giving us this so-called development assistance along the way, but you can see what the assistance brings to it. They're able to step over the line and the government can't do anything because if they call these loans on, the government don't have the money to pay them back, right? So I just want to show you people exactly why the ADB has so much say and power over the policy space of Barbados because of how much money we owe them, right? And this is, I say, look at the list of all of these loans here. Look. I don't want to go through all of them because we don't have the time. Okay, the Latin American Development Bank, $362 million. Look, it's all right there, people. Again, CAF COVID-19 program, $200 million. Right? So we need a complete audit of all of the monies borrowed under Mayor Motley, Minister of Finance. All of these loans, we need an audit as to how much money they actually borrowed during the COVID-19 program and the reason why they have not put the contracts, because every public contract issued by the government of Barbados during COVID was supposed to be listed at CAIPO as part of the legislation of the Public Financial Management Act. But I went down by CAIPO and I checked. Remember when I did my video, I went down there and I checked the CAIPO myself, and Winston was there, so Winston could tell you that I was there. And Winston could testify to you that those contracts were not in there. And the Prime Minister went down by CAIPO and she cursed off the staff and asked them why was I allowed to come in there and search about and get information as to what, but the contract, you know that the people in CAIPO had no idea that this policy passed. Right?
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, Kima, we're just scratching the surface, and I know we were dealing with a lot of the social issues, and the people were really into that, and a lot of people said they learned a lot tonight. But you know, we advertise certain things. I'm glad you got in the loan payments at least. It's very interesting. I'm making notes here, but we're going to have to pick up on this, right? But thank you so much, Kimar. This is very good work. I want to go now to Miss McLean, who you know, she sacrificed some time to be here for me this evening because I've asked her since yesterday, and I want to honor her time, you know, as well as Kimar, who also researched a lot. And I know Mr. Franklin will jump in this because you were both senators. We're so privileged to have you both on here. He just jumped off by mistake. I think something happened. But I want to go right into your research, Ms. McLean, as a former senator and also the previous Minister of Foreign Affairs. Can you talk to us about these diplomatic passports and why people are concerned that this 22-year-old would have you know, a passport, diplomatic passport? Over to you, ma'am.
Thanks. But before I talk about that, and having listened, I think it's important that I say something about that very serious information that Kimar just shared. Because, as you said, he's only starting in presenting that there are 1,000,001 questions that have to be asked and answered by the government, the Minister of Finance. Because when you look at that total amount of money, first of all, how has it been spent? If it has been spent, because sometimes they borrow these monies and they commit to them, pay commitment fees and all kinds of things. What is the repayment schedule? I don't know if you heard Professor Robinson this morning. Basically, if I remember correctly, he said that half of the loan payments that were made in the recent past, I don't have the exact dates in front of me, and I would get to it sometime, were made from borrowed money. So we are borrowing money to pay back money that we borrowed. You see, they went and made all of these foreign loans and so on. So when you hear 200 and something million dollars of COVID, tell us how it was spent. And he went through a whole list. That is a very, very serious thing. And we mentioned it before. I remember Kimar making the point that we had a problem where a sinking fund, which is a mechanism by which government sets aside money to service debt, has been used up. This is money that would have been accumulated by, successive governments, and that money is not there. So you don't even have that. But so I think, Marcia, that there are about four other steps that Kimar will have to share in relation to that information. This is very serious. But it smacks to me of a level of indiscipline, deception, and a whole set of other things. And you've asked me to talk a little bit about diplomatic passports because this is but another example of things going awry
Mhm.
in a way that is very concerning. First of all, you have to ask yourself, what exactly are we talking about when we talk about a diplomatic passport? And a diplomatic passport is a special passport, and I took up mine so people can see what it looks like. This is what it looks like. It is issued um, to it says it explains. Let me look for an older one because it tells you um, what the passport is about. Diplomatic passports are issued to officials representing the Barbados government at home and abroad in the diplomatic missions and consulates, international and regional institutions and organizations, and individuals holding or have held service official um, positions. They are also issued to dependents, and that's one of the things. Now, a dependent is defined in other places as persons. For example, the British have set out a very clear document because in trying to get some updates, I wasn't able to get anything hard and fast documents written. What I can tell you is that while dependents might have gotten them, the assumption was that these were persons who were under 18 years or under, and if they were officials living abroad, these dependents were actually resident, or in school or traveling back and forth.
Mhm.
Things seem to have changed significantly since 2018 because usually a diplomatic passport would be used because I'm focusing on dependents, when that dependent is traveling with his or her parent or spouse, So in other words, in the case of children, they will travel with the person through whom they got that passport.
Mhm.
So, for example, if my son had one, because in the 10 years that I was a minister, my son never had one. Because as a minor, if you were traveling with me and I was on official business, he would have been facilitated with me with my passport because he was not going to be sent off to another line by himself. So the question really and truly is, why, under what terms and conditions are these things issued? I also want to make it clear that a diplomatic passport does not automatically give a person diplomatic immunity. People get confused. Diplomatic immunity relates to foreign officials, let's say ambassadors, consuls general, other foreign service workers who are living and working in another jurisdiction. And while they are in that jurisdiction, they are given what is called immunity. So they are excluded from any what I would describe as any kind of charges or whatever. In other words, you were immune from legal action. If they had legal immunity, that's the word I wanted. So the notion of a diplomatic passport providing you with some kind of immunity only applies in specific situations. My concern is that in trying to look at this matter, I sought to establish whether there were any written rules and regulations indicating, who now qualifies, because from an expression was used to me when I was asking some questions, and the expression was, nowadays the world and the wife got diplomatic passports, which means that they seem to have been issued to a number of people. Um, the idea is that, as I said, you are not using this passport if you are granted it on your own and for your own travel. In fact, if you are not on official business, you should not use your diplomatic passport. Okay? Let's say, for example, a courtesy has been extended to former ministers and so on. And the only thing, first of all, it tells you in the passport, in this case, and I looked at mine, it tells you that you are a former minister. So I can't walk around with anyway. What this can do for me now is, what this would do for me now is to allow me to not stand in a long line and go to a diplomatic line which is shorter, and get to the baggage counter faster. Literally, that's what it is. A question here from Adrian: would this young lady, I presume that they're talking about the case, be entitled to a diplomatic passport? I believe she's at 21. If she could have been issued one as a dependent, but as I said, because you are talking about, let me not speak specifically to her, but let me speak to myself.
Well, I think that they were asking you in that time when you were.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
She,
okay. As a dependent, from what she would have been. Now, as I said, it was never made clear to me. I mean, and I never asked about it, that my son could have had one, and it was not necessary, because the only time, and this is why I'm saying about entitlement and whatever, the issuing of that passport, from all that I've been told, that individual should be traveling with or to the in this case the principal, what I would call the person through whom they became able to get that passport. So in other words, if a parent is traveling and a child is traveling with that parent, then they use it. But it is not something that an adult should be using separately, because the intention, and as I was saying in relation to myself, the intention was that when you travel, and when you present it, that you're presenting that as part of official business in the normal scheme of things. Now, there's a concern there, because as I said, if you're not traveling on official business, in most cases, then you could use your ordinary passport. Be careful, you're accused of Pedro. So basically, in terms of the use of the diplomatic passport as well, typically, and in some jurisdictions, they're very firm about this. I think North America is like this. If you're not traveling on official business, you cannot use it, other than probably to enter or exit the country. So it is really a document that identifies persons who are representing their country, either in terms of in a physical location, such as a staff member of a mission, such as an ambassador, a consulate, officer, administrative staff, or whatever the case may be. But it is not a document that, as I said, it gives you immunity. No, there's an interesting development in Barbados since 2018. Prior to the change of government, and I can't remember exactly when this was instituted, there was no provision in Barbados for um, vacation leave. And as I read the message, I would say members of parliament do get diplomatic passports. But again, the expectation is that, because they will be probably traveling on official business, the expectation is that if you are not, it makes sense to use your regular passport. So, for example, I always have my regular passport with me. I always travel with my blue passport, which is this one, and I still do, even though there's a courtesy extended to former ministers where you have a passport which says that you are a former minister, and when you look at occupation or whatever the case may be, um, and so on. But it is not something that you just present and use to give you some kind of unusual special treatment, especially if you are, I want to use a term that I am coining, the principal person who gets that. So, in other words, you talk about a member of parliament, you talk about an ambassador, they have that. An ambassador who is posted overseas, his or her children under 18 or under would get the, and I think are up to 21, unless that person is studying, and I think it goes up to 24. All of this is saying, though, Marcia and listeners, that there is need for a full documentation of who qualifies, what, under what conditions the passport can be used, and so on, because I've been hearing all kinds of things. So there is need for a clear set of policy or guidelines to be set out, as I say, specifying who qualifies, how and when the diplomatic passport should be used, um, and to recognize that dependents are not free to use at will, especially, I mean, if for example, and there are scenarios that we have to understand, some families never travel all at once. Okay.
Mhm.
um so for example, let's say there's a family of five, a husband, a wife, and three children. One parent may travel with two children, and the other person might travel with one, because their argument is, we do not want to be in should some disaster happen, we wouldn't want to lose our entire family. Somebody's asking about a diplomatic visa. Now, as a minister of government, for example, you have to travel in certain places. And I will use the case of the United States. I recall at some point the United States was saying that their policy was that they would issue visas on request
Mm.
to a cross section of ministers, with a few exceptions. And one of those exceptions would be a foreign minister. And yeah, I suppose the reality is that a foreign minister travels pretty heavily. I mean, we do see the foreign minister now traveling a lot with the prime minister, but in many instances, a lot of meetings would have been covered by the foreign minister. So a visa you would get, let me see if I can find one, for example. What you would have gotten from the US was a D visa, type A1. So that for, and I interesting, I picked up an old passport, and there it was. Let me see if I can show you. There it was. Um, and it was a special visa. Now, that would, as soon as you are no longer in, that would be changed. For example, when I wanted to travel out to Barbados after then, mid 2018, that visa was canceled. Now, another thing is, again, and I'm answering the questions as they come. Adrian is asking the difference between a diplomatic passport and an official passport. An official passport is issued to a cross section of public officers who have to travel in the line of their job. So, for example, a permanent secretary in a ministry would most likely, because he or she is the most senior officer in that ministry, will typically have a diplomatic passport. On the other hand, you may have a senior foreign service officer or foreign service officer or a staff member from statistical services department who travels to conferences and whatever the case may be, those persons below the level of PS and maybe deputy PS would have official passports. Um, and so that indicates that that passport holder is traveling on official business, right? And so that is the case. So it really is um, a facility. A diplomatic passport essentially is a facility that is granted to you. It does not accrue, or it does not offer to you any what I would call special rights, except it goes along with other things such as as I said, a diplomatic posting and so on.
Mhm.
And certainly dependents are, those are things that are offered to facilitate, I suppose I would call family activity and so on. But at the end of the day, what I can tell you, my experience was that notwithstanding the fact that in the case of my son, he did not have a diplomatic passport. As a minor who traveled with me on maybe two occasions over the 10-year period, he would have been facilitated with me, because one of the things that happens when you travel, for example, as a minister and certainly as foreign minister, when you deplane in a lot of jurisdictions in the US, it's typical. Miami is a very good example. You are met by the door of the aircraft in most instances, or before you exit the what I would call the pathway to get to immigration and so on. You are met by officials because you notify. Typically, what happens if you're going on official business, you notify your mission, whether it is an embassy or consulate, and they notify, in the case of America, TSA and whoever else, and their not home office is the UK, the State Department, that you are traveling and you are met. So in essence, if you are traveling and I am traveling, let's say we're traveling with, and I had a dependent with me, I would indicate I am traveling with a delegation of X, and included in that delegation is my son of X years old, and they
Understood.
have the
Understood.
details and so on. Now, if, for example, and as it would have happened in a case where I took my son to London with me because I was going on to meetings elsewhere, and I left him with relatives in England, um, that information is given, and he stays there, and I go off to the meeting. We come back and join. You may have a situation where he could leave and come back before me. Now, if he had a diplomatic passport, that passport could be used as he was exiting. But all it does is, as I said, it allows you, um, in most jurisdictions, to probably use a diplomatic desk. But you do not escape immigration procedures. You might be facilitated, as we do in Barbados, when diplomats come into Barbados. Let's say the president of Guyana or the president of Sri Lanka or wherever comes into Barbados, they will be met, because that information is provided to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and they would share that information, with staff at the lounge or whatever. And those people are met and accorded certain kinds of courtesies, right? And so, for example, instead of having that person to go and stand up in the line in immigration, and foreign service person, with a protocol officer, would take the document, stand in line, take the bags, and those bags could be checked. Okay, I can tell you that, so in other words, the official doesn't go and stand in line. They're given the baggage claim tags, and an officer will go and retrieve those bags, and they are, as far as I can tell you, they are handled like any other bag. They go through and they clear customs, and then they get a porter, one of the red caps, to bring the luggage and so on. Now, in some jurisdictions, and again, depending on how often you travel, you may have in the US what they call pre-clearance. So, for example, if I went to a conference in Bogota, Colombia, or Ecuador or something, they come through and declare. But I can tell you, even though you have pre-clearance, it does not mean that your bags are not checked. On multiple occasions, coming out of, coming through Miami, let me put it this way, or US airports, because of how I pack my luggage, I have seen how bags are handled on the tarmac. I remember one day sitting and watching a, a torrent, a heavy, heavy shower, and people's bags were sitting there. And of course, as you would imagine, people's luggage got soaked. So over the years, my experience of traveling is I always make sure I have my things in plastic. And so, for example, if you have a bag that is packed and there's several things wrapped up and so on, and they put it through a scanner, they may say, well, I can't really see, or the bag is packed very tightly because, nowadays you're only allowed one piece and all kinds of things, or you're paying. So you pack a bag, and if they cannot see, if they scan it and they feel that they need to search it, they will go through it. But when you retrieve your bag and you get home, you will find a form which says, we have examined your bag manually, you know. Now, the
Yeah.
no, what I can tell you, as I said, and this was something I got the impression that there was an unusually large number. As I said, I actually raised the question in a chat with my former colleagues, and what I noticed was that people who had younger children, in the case of late Prime Minister Thompson, his children would have had passports, and they, at the time he was Prime Minister, they were all probably minors in the first year, or certainly wouldn't have been 18 or on, as far as I recall. But it seems as though not only that, a number of people, it would be interesting. In fact, in response to Square 4, I would pose this question to the Chief Immigration Officer, to the Minister of Home Affairs, who I believe is responsible for matters of immigration, and to the Prime Minister of Barbados. Can you tell Barbadians right now how many people hold diplomatic passports? And I will share this with you because I remember when government changed, and I was informed, because when I needed to change my passport, I was informed that I will receive a notice to say you will have to change your passport. You retain a diplomatic passport, but you get something else. Because my assumption was that that would have gone. And I understand that a certain former minister under this administration was saying that we shouldn't get them. And I mean, I say to the person, if you don't get them, I couldn't care less. I have a regular passport. And if I have to travel, I would simply transfer any visas that I had in it there. But from all that I have been hearing, there has been a significant increase in the
In the
issue
number of,
of
yes.
diplomatic passports.
Yes,
My question, therefore, is what has changed in terms of the qualifiers? In other words, what is it that um, who qualifies? Let me put it that way, for diplomatic passports. And does it apply to all children, or is there an age limit?
Mhm.
Secondly, under what circumstances do you use it? Now, I started to make the point about travel, and some countries may insist on it because they do it to their officials. When I was a minister, we had no official holiday. And so for the entire 10 years, there was no holiday period. I remember my first boss um, telling me and my colleagues, you don't have official holidays, but you can't work if you're tired. If you want to arrange to have a couple of days off at a period or whatever, signal. And my approach was, unlike some of my colleagues, my son, by the time I was into government a couple of times, he was like 17 or 16 or whatever, and not a little child, not somebody with whom I needed to take summer holidays, for example, or Christmas holidays. So people would work around that, but there was no official holiday. So essentially, for a person like myself, I never took a holiday trip. When I traveled, it was business. I might say to the Prime Minister, I want to take a day in between
Right. Miss
to
McLean,
rep.
Miss McLean, as you're going along, I know I gave you came on late, but we're past 10.
Okay.
So if we can you give us 2 more minutes and then over to Caswell, and we're gonna
And then I
close.
can go back to my party.
Yes,
Well,
sorry.
no, I think it's kind of thing that that was what I was doing. But I can say to them I did the show because they might have
Yes.
thought I want to run away. So no
No.
problem. No, I think basically a diplomatic passport is a serious thing. Somebody talked about the image and reputation of the country, and one of the things that I always told people, carrying a diplomatic passport carried with it, to my mind, a major responsibility, not a burden, but a major responsibility of ensuring that I did nothing to impact the reputation or status of the government and the people of Barbados. Um, but and so I think it's an issue in which I would want to see documentation as to who gets these things, some confirmation as to who is holding them and why, and so on, and what has changed from previously, no, if anything.
Yes.
Over to you,
Thank
Casper.
yes. Thank
Yes,
you, Miss McLean. Very
thank
well
you
said.
very much, Maxine. You covered almost every area, so there's not much I can say that I can't dispute anything that you're saying. But before I do that, Marcia, just to let you know that on YouTube there are 765 people watching.
Wow, wow.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we got 162 thumbs up tonight. So at
Wow.
least,
Wow. I
yeah,
know it went over 800, and
I follow here as well.
yes,
you know,
it tonight went over 800 in total between the two platforms, Facebook and so on. I think the people were interested in the social issues.
yeah,
Yeah.
but
So
WhatsApp now, YouTube alone is 762 right now. I
Wow.
don't know how much is on Facebook, but that could be
yeah.
it's more 300. Anyhow, diplomatic passports. Prior to 2018, it has always been that if you are an MP, your minor children are entitled to have a passport when they travel with you. And if those children are then in college, university, up to age 24, you can have, but you have to be in school.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a question of, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 23-year-old person having a diplomatic passport. And you must be in the household of the person.
Right.
I can't have a few outside children and say, well, I'm a minister and somebody raising them for me and that kind of stuff. Now all of a sudden now I find children. No, they are your household. They must be in your household
Mm.
to get a diplomatic passport. But my understanding is, and I checked, that the floodgates have been released on passports. Even government PR people get diplomatic passport now. Am I talking about people who plan their campaigns? All right, I'm not calling any names right now. I'll do that later. But so you get a diplomatic passport. A diplomatic passport does not give you any special privilege, other than Maxine said. You go to the diplomatic line and you don't have to stand by everybody else because there's a line for diplomats. So you get to get your bikes first. That's all. You are never entitled to diplomatic immunity at home unless you are a Barbadian working for CARICOM, Caribbean Development Bank, or one of those things. You are stationed in Barbados. You know, like we have some international agencies like SIDIMA and those things that are CARICOM agencies. If you will see the person who was responsible for driving a CD car, CD Corps Diplomatique, the French for diplomatic corps, it got to be a red, a yellow and green or yellow and blue license plate. You get that privilege, even though you might be a Barbadian, but you are not. But you are working for an international agency. But it just happened that those persons, not international or CARICOM agency, All right, you get that privilege because you are their head. So that's where the diplomatic passports come in if you are local, but you are never outside of that set of circumstances. You are never entitled to diplomatic immunity at home. You are entitled to diplomatic immunity when you are accredited. So even if you have a diplomatic passport, let's say you are accredited to the United States, you have diplomatic status in the United States, you went and carry a passport and show it to the president, along with some credentials that you get from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, from the Prime Minister. You take that to the president, you are accredited, the president of the receiving country, you are accredited. You could shoot somebody and they're going to arrest you. They're going to say, back home, you get tried right here because you have diplomatic immunity. We even had a diplomat once in Barbados who was accredited in the United States, and he claimed that his dog had diplomatic immunity and his dog burned somebody. But that was a long time ago. And he's no dead, so we'll leave him alone. But you are only accredited. Now, let's say you're accredited to the United States, but you decide, well, look, man, I got some family in England, I got some time off, I can go across in England. You have no diplomatic immunity in England. You only have diplomatic immunity to the country where you are accredited. So if you are not accredited to a particular country, I know Barbadian can be accredited to Barbados. As a matter of fact, we had a situation where, and I don't know why he had the body to blow the whistle, when Glenn Clark was going to be made High Commissioner to Canada. High Commissioner is the same thing as ambassador, but High Commissioners to Commonwealth countries and ambassadors to the non-Commonwealth country. That's the only difference. You got the same thing. I just call them different. I never know about the law commissioner though, but you got a High Commissioner. And when they were going to make him High Commissioner to Canada, or in fact the ambassador to Canada, but as I said, Commonwealth countries, you are called High Commissioner. So I knew Glenn had a Canadian passport. So I got on the platform and I make some noise. And when the brass starts the thing and say, you can't be thing because you cannot be an ambassador to your own country. All right. So he had to give up this Canadian citizenship and so he can get the job up there because you cannot be an ambassador to your home country. And if you are a citizen of a country, you cannot be accredited to that country. So you cannot have a diplomatic immunity. And you can be saying, I hear Maxine talking about people coming into the airport and you would go to the lounge, and even the person like Ella Barrow. I remember when he was leader of the opposition, I remember him coming to my line and standing up because I was an immigration officer. And Barrow came to the line and started all down and they looked up and they saw it was Barrow. I left my desk. I went over. I went to him. I spoke to him very nicely and thing because, mind you, I was a B back then, but he was still the former prime minister. So I went and I took him out the line. And he went and got his own bags after I checked him in. I had to ask him about it because I just stamped the passport. I know who Barrow did. I ain't got to ask him anything. So I just stamped the passport, said, welcome home, sir, and that kind of thing. And he went now. After I finished there, I was going to lunch. After I finished that flight, and I saw Barrow down in the customs with his bag open up. Because he can't, when the customs officer tell you the thing, I watched it myself. And he said, no, check. And he opened his bags and let the customs off. And the customs officers was a bit timid. You don't want to check Barrow bag, but Barrow insisted. So we got these people who feel that because they think them is somebody, they might have a bigger body Barbados than Barrow, but he wants his bike searched. That's the difference. Now we got a lot of pipsqueaks walking about the place because they're canvassing somebody and they get the diplomatic passport. They're walking about the place paying them big bad bullies and things. And I'm not talking about any particular case. I'm talking about having people walking about the place with their chest up, talking, you got the diplomatic passport. I had one too because I was a senator. And I was entitled to one. And my children, minor children, and in college and stuff. I had a daughter in college, but I didn't get the passport for her because, hell, she was quite. She wasn't going to travel anywhere. She was in college in New York anyhow. Because she,
Yeah.
so I didn't need it, and she's not going to be traveling with me anyhow. So,
Yeah.
but people now abuse the privilege they get, and a lot of people in Barbados are afraid. We give passports to a lot of diplomatic passports to people who shouldn't even get a passport, to tell you the truth, because they're going to misbehave when they left this place.
Yeah. Yeah.
Honestly. So, and even right now, even some of our ambassadors are of, I don't want to say ill repute, so I'm trying to find another word. But so help me with another word, Maxine, because you to the selections.
Unsuitable.
Unsuitable. Thank you. But there are there are ambassadors now and behaving badly. I have a case right now where the ambassador, if he's a political person, he can't sign the checks and he can't give the money and all kind of stuff. Only the senior
Public
person and
officer.
the public officer can sign money. Man, the man is cursed them bad, gone bad. She complained for him with evidence. So you know what the result is? Rather than deal with the man who is cursing and breaking off doors, breaking locks at the place and all kind of stuff, slamming it so hard the door break. It's a we call the
Public
public
officer.
officer and left the thing. I am going to make it public eventually because I'm not going through the stages in the public service. Now we've written to the Director General of the Public Service because this person is a public officer. And we are waiting for the grievance to be heard. But now we have gotten information that the person who complained for this bad behaved person cursed the staff, gone bad,
Yeah.
mash up the people things. But he's a diplomat. But these are the type of people, thank Maxine for the word unsuitable.
Yeah.
That
I'm a diplomat farmer.
yeah, that we populate this place with. And so what do you expect? But that
Yeah.
will come.
Yes, but I'm glad. Is this? I wonder if this is Carol.
CG, let me ask you the question to CG.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we Carol does a fantastic job. If this is her, I don't know if it's her. I probably don't know if I'm allowed to call her name, but we don't know her last name. But she and a group of people, and they put together all of the banners and the everything, and does a fantastic job. And so those you can tell me what time, CG, so I can announce it. Let me know what time you're going to be there so we can announce it, so others can be at the march. And this is a march that we're talking about, and we want to start those. We're trying to start those posters. It seems, I don't know if it's this Friday. So everybody come out. This is a time where we have to come out. We've got to come out. Don't sit and wait for somebody else to come out. And trying to see how many persons are going to come out or whatever. No, we got to take back our nation, and the numbers matter. The numbers matter. They saw it fit, Mr. Franklin, to proclaim this bill and this law, but not the one that keeps them accountable. They want to put us under pressure. They want our data, taking our privacy from us. And no transparency, no accountability. Yeah, but they go ahead and get this one done. They got the whole thing on the pension done, right? Except their age, to remove to make their age the same as ours. That they
Yeah,
said that they.
when we were complaining, they're saying, "Oh, they're going to have some sort of thing to look at they're going to be the age to beyond 50." And I said that ain't gonna happen. You remember I said that is not going to happen. They're going to say that. I
Yeah.
hope that we forget because they're not going to do it. Because I'll tell you, most people right now in Parliament cannot find a job outside of Parliament after they left. They're not qualified for anything. And even if they're qualified for something, they're poor at it. and they're not going to make the kind of living that they make in Parliament. So they want to maintain that standard. Rather than going to look for a job, they got this and want to get their pension at 50.
Yes, yes,
Right?
yes.
Which is unfair, which is unreasonable, which is on everything possible. And you are,
Right.
and thing
Well,
is,
just a question here.
you get 8 years to make your pension, and you just passed legislation for a person to get theirs at, but you have to now qualify for a full pension at 40 years. How many people can work 40 years any place? But they get their full pension at 12.
Yeah, you see. Listen. Those are we've got to come out on Saturday, the 13th at 10 a.m. Is the march, but also to make the posters and so on. We're going to be at is it 6th Avenue?
No, number 5, 6th Avenue. 6th
Number
Avenue.
5, 6th Avenue on Friday at 10 o'clock. Number 5, 6th Avenue on Friday at 10 o'clock.
Make sure you stress 6th Avenue, because many times I'm in the office and some person said, "Me, well, I'm in the 5th Avenue." Like, I look up and no, they can't find your office. And I will always say, there's a reason for that. And when they ask me why, I would say, because I'm in the 6th. So remember.
Yeah. So come on out, okay, guys. So we're gonna close tonight because we don't want to go on too long, and then they don't want to join the next night, right? So we're going to. I want to thank everybody for coming on, and the panel for sharing, for researching. Thank you, Kimar. I know you didn't get to do everything that you researched, but you saw what was happening, and we were just flowing. Ms. McLean, thank you so much for leaving your party. I'm so sorry to coming to educate us. Thank you.
Yeah, because I saw her thing. I was almost dressed up. I was going to put back on my jacket.
As well, there's a guy at the beach up to this morning. He said, "You think as casual, I am putting on a jacket."
Well, listen, somebody's saying, if this is true, Adrian Hines, we want to know, because somebody said something like this to me today, but we want to get some facts. We want to get some facts so everybody can read the screen. And if this is true, we need to be able, because people need to realize the kind of people that are leading us and the associations, right? The possibility. We don't know if anybody guilty, but the friend and company, right? Your cumbalo. In Jamaica, we say we want to see your cumbalo, right? And you lay down with dogs, you're going to catch fleas, right? That's what they said. All right. So, guys, thank you all so much. Thank you, Kimar.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Look for us again on Friday at 7 o'clock. Those who can go down to Caswell at 10, go down to Caswell 10 o'clock in the morning. But Friday at 7, we're on again. Kimar, go ahead. Kimar.
No, I was just saying, how come people always seem to remember Casual's jacket, but they don't remember that he's supposed to be in a jacket and on the rear too. But
You can only see the jacket. You have to ask him to stand up.
If he ever stand up, all of us run. All right, bye-bye. Good night. Good night, everybody.
Wait.